Chapter 778. However, in this age of geniuses, 1 year was sufficient to change the situation. The old and the new would replace each other. The two remained silent for a while. Then, Bai Qi said with some yearning, "The Tianwu domain has changed. The Tianwu domain has changed." Xiao Chen thought about this a few times. Then, he took a sip of wine and asked seriously, "How did it change?" Of the 7 giants, Anjuanshi relied on the true dragon lightning whip to finally have a weapon to deal with the divine martial gate's holy son, Feng Wuji. The two fought for 3 days and 3 nights. Feng Wuji had the upper hand, but he could not do anything to Anjuanshi. He could only call it a draw. Bai Qi put down his wine cup and spoke in a calm and unhurried tone. However, what he said still startled Xiao Chen, who was already prepared. For a long time, the holy sons and holy daughters seemed to be naturally superior in the Tianwu domain. No one would compare themselves to them. When ordinary people asked who the peak experts of the younger generation of the Tianwu domain were, the answer would definitely be the 7 giants. They purposely left out the 3 holy masters. Furthermore, they did not feel that there was anything wrong with that. The 3 holy masters transcended the world. The holy sons and holy daughters normally did not move around the Tianwu domain, so it was difficult to see them in person. To the younger generation of the Tianwu domain, the 3 holy masters were too distant. They were like living legends. The 7 giants were the experts that could be seen. If one wanted to make a name for themselves and challenge them, they would only be targets. No one would seek out the 3 holy masters. However, Anjuanshi had broken this legend, becoming the only person in the Tianwu domain to be as famous as the 3 holy masters in the past 10,000 years. Xianyuan Zhantian could not help saying, that battle was really intense. One comprehended the will of wind, and the other comprehended the will of thunder. Several of the inferior grade martial sages watching were so frightened that they turned pale. Anjuanshi is indeed incredible. The holy son, Feng Wuji, is clearly stronger than Anjuanshi. However, Feng Wuji cannot take him down and can only call it a truce. Xianyuan Zhantian's words were somewhat contradictory. However, they were easy to understand. If the other party was just slightly stronger, unless they fought to the death, there would be no way to determine a victor. However, even in a true life-and-death battle, the possibility of the two dying together was the highest. Anjuanshi had to admit that this person was very strong. Now, there are 4 holy scions in the Tianwu domain. The Thunder and Lightning Palace that Anjuanshi belongs to is slightly weaker than the Holy Lands. However, everyone acknowledges his strength, which clearly distinguishes him from the 7 giants. Bai Qi continued, moreover, the title of the 7 magnates is now only in name. Xiao Chen raised his brows and asked curiously, "What do you mean?" Half a year ago, the top bladesman of the south, Feng Xingsheng, challenged Luo Zixiao, one of the 7 giants. With exquisite saber techniques and 80% comprehended saber intent, he defeated Luo Zixiao within 200 moves. The other of the 7 magnates, Jiang Ziyuan, was also defeated by a mysterious swordsman from the Heaven Sword world, Duan Yi, within 100 moves. Their undefeated record was broken, and they lost the title of the 7 magnates. The Shiman clan's Shiman Bao received some kind of stimulation. After he returned from the savage battlefield, he entered his clan's impassable purgatory to cultivate. He received the demonic training of the Shiman clan's martial emperor, becoming neither human nor ghost. After Shiman Bao came out, he directly challenged the passionate young master, Murong Lingfeng. Initially, no one thought highly of this profligate scion. However, he actually managed to fight to a draw with the passionate young master, even nearly defeating him. There is also the top genius of the battle realms, Niu Deng. He is even more shocking. He directly challenged the hot-tempered Wang Meng of the 7 giants and actually managed to fight to a draw. In the past year, several young experts have emerged, gaining a resounding reputation. The children of luck from the various realms have all matured. They are no weaker than the 7 giants of the past. Bai Qi said a lot in one breath. Aside from yearning, there was also a trace of desolation in his tone. In this age of geniuses, those lower realm experts had undergone a baptism of tempering and elimination. All those who could make a name for themselves had emerged. However, Bai Qi's name was not among them. Xiao Chen entered deep thought. Based on what Bai Qi said, the Tianwu domain had indeed changed. Of the 7 giants, 1 advanced to the Holy Scion, 2 were defeated, and 2 fought to a draw. For the past 10-odd years, the 7 giants had dominated the Tianwu domain's younger generation. Now, they were completely disrupted. After a period of dormancy and accumulation, many children of karmic luck from the lower dimensions that were similar to him had finally emerged and revealed their extraordinary might. This was a grand age of geniuses that only appeared once every 10,000 years. The countless geniuses of the 3,000 great realms and the vast stage finally revealed the tip of the iceberg in the Kunlun realm's Tianwu domain. Whoever could stand out in the Tianwu domain would truly gain a ticket to this stage of geniuses, gaining the qualifications to compete for the throne of this age. Xiao Chen thought for a while. Of the 7 giants, his first senior sister and the person he cared about the most, Bai Wuxue, did not mention anything. So, he could not help but ask. Speaking of Shui Lingling, Bai Qi smiled gently and said, "Who dares to challenge Shui Lingling? If she really gets angry, even the scions of the 3 holy masters would not dare to offend her. Her archery is publicly recognized as the best in the Tianwu domain. However, she is slightly weaker in close combat. If you keep a distance from her, you might end up riddled with holes." As for Bai Wuxue, at the mention of Bai Wuxue, a demonic genius with the same surname as him, Bai Qi paused for a moment. His expression turned somewhat grave as he said, "Xiao Chen, it is not that I do not have confidence in you. It is just that I advise you to give up on your challenge with him. No one will laugh at you." Xianyuan Zhantian, who was at the side, revealed a similar expression. He felt that it was unfortunate for Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat, but he did not refute. He smiled and said, "Just say what you have to say." Bai Qi gathered his emotions and said with some horror, "After he left the savage battlefield, he disappeared. No one knows where he went. He only returned a month ago." A lower realm luck bearer, who has been in the limelight recently, wanted to use him to make a name for himself. In the end, he froze that person into an ice pillar within 10 moves. With just a gentle touch, he shattered into ice shards on the ground, not even leaving a dregs behind. Xianyuan Zhantian said gravely, "This is not the most horrifying thing. There was news just half a month ago that he went to the bitter cold land of the Kunlun realm's extreme north. When he returned, he brought back a head." Xiao Chen asked interestedly, "What head?" Xianyuan Zhantian whispered, "The head of a loose cultivator ranked 10th on the evil cultivator ranking. That loose cultivator roamed free for a long time. He was an inferior grade martial sage." Right after Xianyuan Zhantian spoke, Bai Qi and Xianyuan Zhantian both looked at Xiao Chen with some sympathy. This news was very cruel to Xiao Chen. However, the truth was the truth. Bai Wuxue killed an inferior grade martial sage. Furthermore, he was a notorious loose cultivator, not an ordinary person. Half a year ago, there might have been some people who thought highly of Xiao Chen. However, after this news came out, practically no one paid attention to Xiao Chen, who had not shown himself for a long time. Bai Wuxue even killed an inferior grade martial sage. What was the point of this challenge? No matter how hard Xiao Chen worked, he would only become a laughing stock in the end. He would become a decent stepping stone on Bai Wuxue's path of cultivation. Aside from that, he was nothing. However, Bai Qi and Xianyuan Zhantian were thoroughly disappointed. The two of them did not see any fear on Xiao Chen's face. In fact, there was not even a ripple in his expression. Bai Qi asked probingly, "Xiao Chen, why are you not reacting at all? Right now, many people are saying that he comprehended the will of ice. His strength is probably not much weaker than in Juanqi's. The head that he brought is the head of a martial sage. In the Kunlun realm, a martial sage is a bona fide major character." Xiao Chen smiled bitterly to himself. What kind of reaction do I have? Not long ago, I defeated 3 inferior-grade martial sages. However, a loose cultivator who advanced to martial sage would definitely be much stronger than the Xian clan's senior elders. However, Xiaochen fought 1 against 3 and was even stronger than Bai Wuxue. As for the specifics, the 2 of them would have to fight for themselves to know. However, Xiaochen was very confident in his will of thunder and did not fear Bai Wuxue's growth. Demonic geniuses often had their own fortuitous encounters. Bai Wuxue's accomplishments were not too shocking. Dong! 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 Just at this moment, chaotic footsteps rang out. A group of unwelcome guests came up the stairs. The 3 people in front all had strong auras and withdrawn killing intent. This was especially so for the person in the middle. When he looked around coldly, the other customers in the restaurant felt a chill from the bottom of their hearts. It was actually a martial sage. A heavy and oppressive atmosphere spread throughout the restaurant. The cultivators who were swept by this person's gaze quickly paid their bills and left, afraid that they would be implicated. When Bai Qi and Xianyuan Zhantian saw this group of people arrive, their complexions immediately paled. They said in a trembling voice, "The Eternal Heavenly Sword School's people are here. Brother Xiao, this matter has nothing to do with you. You should leave first. The 2 of us will meet up with you later." The 2 of them showed somewhat surprised expressions. They had not expected the Eternal Heavenly Sword School's people to arrive so quickly. Furthermore, they had not expected the other party to send out a martial sage for the sake of the 2 of them. If there were no martial sages, the 2 of them would not be a match for these 2 half-sages. However, they were confident that they could still leave. However, the arrival of a martial sage caused their confidence to plummet. They were probably going to die here. Furthermore, they had implicated Xiaochen. The martial sage leading the group revealed a cold smile. Disdain filled his face as he stood upright with his hands clasped behind his back. He said in a cold voice, "I was wondering which expert had arrived. He managed to kill 20-odd inner sect disciples of my Eternal Heavenly Sword School with a wave of his hand. It turns out that he is just a half-sage. No one is allowed to leave today. The sects behind you will not be able to save you in Hunluo province." The martial sage waved his hand, and the 2 half-sages beside him led the superior-grade martial monarchs behind them to charge at Bai Qi and Xianyuan Zhantian without saying a word. Dong! 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 The group of people rushed over. Their heavy footsteps caused the floor to rumble. Their killing chi spread out and formed formless shockwaves. Many porcelain vases that were used to decorate the floors cracked, and the atmosphere instantly became extremely depressing. Bai Qi and Xianyuan Zhantian showed grave expressions. They stretched out their hands and grasped the weapons in their hands. Just as the battle was about to start, Xiaochen, who was seated at the table, looked at the 2 half-sages with strong auras. His lips curled up in a cold smile. Chapter 779. Xiaochen stretched out his hand and pushed forward. A vast and surging quintessence poured out from the thick heavenly sage laws. Then, he skillfully controlled the quintessence in the wine cup that he pushed forward. As the wine cup spun, the wine in the cup did not move at all. At first, the 2 half-sages did not care. However, after a while, their expressions changed drastically. The back of the spinning wine cup actually reflected thumbthick heavenly sage laws. On a level that was hard to see with the naked eye, the wine cup guided a vast sea of lightning. It contained boundless energy, several times stronger than the 2 of them combined. Dodge! The 2 roared at the same time. They pushed off the ground and quickly shot upwards. In the blink of an eye, they were on the roof of the building. However, the group of superior-grade martial monarchs behind them did not have such good eyesight or reaction speed. Bang! Light exploded, and the first person the wine cup touched was instantly blasted into charcoal by the lightning. A roasted smell wafted out. After that, it was like a chain reaction. The 10-odd people behind screamed miserably. Before this overwhelming energy, they could not resist at all. Even ordinary half-sages could not block a casual strike from Xiaochen. How could mere superior-grade martial monarchs block it? When the electricity disappeared, the wine cup continued to spin. Xiao Chen stretched out his hand, and the exquisite wine cup returned to his grasp. The wine in the cup heated up slightly, and its flavor increased. Xiao Chen gently blew on the wine cup and drained it in one gulp. While the wine was heating up, 10 odd superior-grade martial monarchs, the inner sect disciples of the Eternal Heavenly Sword School, had been killed so easily. When Bai Qi and Xianyuan Zhantian saw this scene, their eyes went wide. They could not understand how Xiao Chen had become so strong. The eyes of the two half-sages stuck to the roof were filled with horror. As they looked at Xiao Chen, they quietly moved and carefully arrived behind the inferior-grade martial sage of the Eternal Heavenly Sword School. This Xiao Chen was clearly not an ordinary half-sage. It was very likely that he was a demonic genius. Such a genius could not be measured with common sense. He could only place his hopes on the martial sacred. The expression of the middle-aged inferior-grade martial sage finally turned grave. He said, "This old man is Sun Liang, the person in charge of the Eternal Heavenly Sword School's Hunluo city. Might I ask for your esteemed name and why you attacked my sect's disciples? If you can give me a reasonable explanation, I can make the decision and let this matter pass." At this moment, he was in a difficult position. Even if he was confident that he could suppress Xiao Chen, he didn't dare to act rashly. Such a powerful demonic genius would definitely have a super expert or faction protecting him. If a major character really made a move, the Eternal Heavenly Sword School would be in big trouble. However, he was not willing to just leave like that. The other party had casually killed so many of his Eternal Heavenly Sword School's people at the city gates. If he did not account for this, the Eternal Heavenly Sword School's reputation would suffer. Xiao Chen put down his wine cup and stood up to look at this person. Then, he stepped forward and said calmly, "Coincidentally, I have something to ask you. If you answer me honestly, I can put aside some of my grudges with the Eternal Heavenly Sword School for now. Since you are the person in charge of this place, you should know why the Eternal Heavenly Sword School has been collecting dragon bones for so many years, right?" As they spoke, Xiao Chen ignored Sun Liang's concession. Instead, he questioned the other party. Xiao Chen's attitude stunned Bai Qi and Xianyuan Zhantian. The other party was a bona fide martial sage. What was Xiao Chen trying to do? It would be fine as long as they both took a step back. How could he offend an inferior-grade martial sage? When Sun Liang heard this, he became enraged. His expression turned unsightly as he said coldly, "Every year, a few self-righteous demonic geniuses die. Do you know how they died? Self-righteous? If you think that I am self-righteous, then I'm afraid you will be disappointed." An electric light burst out under Xiao Chen's feet, and he instantly arrived before Sun Liang. Before everyone's astonished gazes, Xiao Chen threw a punch at this tyrant of Hunluo City. Electric light surged on his fist, and electric light flashed. It seemed like Xiao Chen could even crush a tall mountain in an instant. Sun Liang was startled. He had not expected Xiao Chen to really dare to make a move. By the time he reacted, he was shocked to discover that Xiao Chen had already arrived before him. Bang! In the time it took for a spark to fly, Sun Liang pushed off the ground and flew up. He did not want to receive Xiao Chen's punch unprepared. A hole appeared in the roof, and Xiao Chen's figure flashed as he leaped out of the inn. However, the two half-sages behind Sun Liang were not as lucky. Xiao Chen's punch struck them, and an overwhelming force surged out. The two vomited a mouthful of blood and went flying back with pale complexions. Even if they did not die, they would be severely injured. This scene was very ironic. Earlier, the two dodged the wine cup that Xiao Chen tossed out. In the end, 10 odd martial monarchs behind them died. Immediately, the two experienced what it was like to be abandoned. Unexpectedly, Sun Liang, whom they were supposed to rely on, abandoned them as well, choosing the most advantageous method for himself. Xiao Chen did not care about the two ordinary half-sages at all. He did not even bother to look at them. He immediately leaped up and chased after Sun Liang. Xiao Chen had been curious about why the Eternal Heavenly Sword School was purchasing dragon bones on such a large scale. Naturally, he would not let go of this opportunity that delivered itself to his doorstep. The empty floor turned cold and silent, leaving only Bai Qi and Shenyuan Zhantian exchanging glances. The development of the situation had completely exceeded the script in their hearts. Bai Qi sighed and said, no wonder he did not react at all when he heard that Bai Wuxue killed an inferior-grade martial sage. Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen is always full of surprises. Above the inn, Xiao Chen, who had just leaped off the roof, had not yet stabilized himself when a bolt of lightning tore through the sky. Sun Liang remained expressionless as he swung his sword at Xiao Chen, carrying the might of thunder. The electric light on Sun Liang's sword was withdrawn, looking very plain. However, it contained all of Sun Liang's law energy, not holding anything back. Xiao Chen pulled back his palm, not showing any intention of dodging. He drew the lunar shadow saber and clashed with the attack. Boom! The saber and sword clashed, and sparks flew out. Following that, two balls of dazzling purple light clashed with each other. Bolts of lightning flashed around the two. The two thunderclouds in the sky clashed intensely as well. The rumbling of thunder did not stop for even a moment. The sky changed color, and the winds and clouds moved chaotically. Such a horrifying scene immediately attracted the gazes of several cultivators in Hunluo City. Sun Liang had taken the initiative to attack from above. Furthermore, he held the advantage of his cultivation. After a while, he gained the upper hand, suppressing Xiao Chen step by step. Sun Liang could not help but reveal an expression of joy as he pressed his sword down. He smiled sinisterly and said, "Today, I will show you the difference between a martial sage and a half-sage. I will teach you a lesson on behalf of your elders." Xiao Chen smiled faintly, not flustered at all. He said softly, "Even among inferior-grade martial sages, there are strong and weak ones. Unfortunately, you are the weak one. It is not your turn to teach me a lesson." A light flashed on Xiao Chen's forehead, and the light of the immortal will of thunder spread out. Thunder roared and instantly suppressed Sun Liang's state of thunder, causing it to crumble and scatter. Xiao Chen, who had been retreating step by step, swung his saber forward. Light exploded, and Sun Liang, who held the upper hand, was knocked back. A kilometer away, shock flashed in the eyes of the pale Sun Liang. He said in a trembling voice with some horror, "Will of thunder. This is the will of thunder." The moment Xiao Chen's will appeared, the situation immediately turned around. Sun Liang's state of thunder completely crumbled. The thundercloud that belonged to Sun Liang slowly scattered. His aura plummeted continuously. Before the might of the will, Sun Liang's heart trembled. The fear in the depths of his heart made him not dare to get close to Xiao Chen. He looked at Xiao Chen with a horrified expression. Unexpectedly, a youth in the Tianwu domain managed to comprehend a will, a wondrous state that even several older generation martial sages could not comprehend. Rumor had it that anyone who comprehended a will would be able to fight someone of a higher cultivation realm as easily as eating or drinking unless their cultivation was much higher. Otherwise, when facing an opponent with a will, even if one's cultivation was higher, there would be no other outcome than death. In Sun Liang's hundreds of years, he had naturally met cultivators with wills. However, the other party's cultivation was higher than his, so they did not need to use their wills. Hence, Sun Liang had never clashed head-on with wills before. He had always felt that the rumors were exaggerated. However, now that he saw it for himself, he no longer dared to have such thoughts. The light of a will, invisible to the naked eye, spread out from Xiao Chen's body. The thunderclouds in the sky roared even more intensely. Under the boundless black clouds, bolt after bolt of purple lightning tore through the sky like long snakes. A huge shadow cast down, turning the sky dark. This made people wonder if the weather had changed. On the other hand, the state of thunder that Sun Liang had regathered was just a small patch of dark clouds. The roaring sound completely suppressed by Xiao Chen's lightning. Compared to Xiao Chen's, Sun Liang sounded like the helpless howls of a child, very laughable. When the several cultivators who rushed over saw this scene, their expressions all changed drastically. The branch master of the Eternal Heavenly Sword School's branch was actually forced into such a sorry state by a youth. When someone saw Xiao Chen's face, startled cries rang out from the crowd in the distance. What a fellow! It is actually him, the white-robed bladesman Xiao Chen. Previously, there was a rumor that he swept through the Star Grave Palace alone, snatching away all the painting pieces. After not seeing him for half a year, his strength has actually grown to such a level. It looks like the rumor is true. This fellow is truly incredible. Half a year ago, he dared to call back Wu Yuankai with words when he was only a martial monarch. Unexpectedly, half a year later, he is even more ridiculous, directly suppressing a martial sage. The scene of this white-clad youth barging into Hunluo City for the first time that night half a year ago was still vivid in the minds of the cultivators present, like it was yesterday. Half a year later, when the white-clad youth who had disappeared for a long time reappeared, he deeply shocked this group of lawless loose cultivators in Hunluo City. Xiao Chen's stern face glanced at Sun Liang, who was a kilometer away. Then, he held his saber with one hand and pushed off the air, starting to run. Up in the air, every time Xiao Chen took a step, the lightning in the sky would roar. It seemed to form a subtle connection with his footsteps. Chapter 780. Thunder roared and lightning flashed. As Xiao Chen ran, it became even more ferocious, and his vast aura soared. Xiao Chen's footsteps sounded like he was driving a vast army charging over. Clouds move with the wind, gathering wind and cloud. A saber light flashed as Xiao Chen executed the starting move of the lightning tribulation saber technique, which he had not used in a long time, gathering wind and cloud. The saber and sword clashed, giving off a melodious hum. Although it was an earth-ranked martial technique, with the support of the immortal will of thunder, it gave off a brilliant light and no weaker might. Dang! 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 Before the radiance of the will, Sun Liang's aura was at a complete disadvantage. His heart was heavy, and he was not in the mood to continue fighting. He only thought about how to leave. He feared that he might end up becoming a stepping stone for a young expert to become famous. However, the more Sun Liang thought about it, the harder it was for him to leave. Xiao Chen's aura flourished as he executed move after move of the lightning tribulation saber technique smoothly. Sun Liang was forced to use a heaven-ranked martial technique before he could barely contend with Xiao Chen. This scene confused several people. Is the will really that powerful? Sun Liang's heaven-ranked martial technique could not gain the upper hand against an earth-ranked martial technique. That is normal. Not only can the will suppress the opponent's state, but it can also raise one's strength in all aspects. Given this situation is understandable. Earthly lightning tribulation. Heavenly lightning tribulation. Divine lightning tribulation. After the lightning tribulation saber technique finished storing up power, Xiao Chen sent down the lightning tribulation. Amid the thousands of lightning bolts, his white robes made him look like a thunder god as he used the saber light to guide the lightning tribulation. Each bolt of lightning tribulation was more horrifying than the one before. After seeing the divine lightning in misleading fog lake, Xiao Chen's understanding of lightning tribulations deepened. The purple talisman in Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness gave off a bright light as immortal inscriptions circulated. The 3 bolts of lightning tribulation were like real lightning tribulations in the world. The heavy and oppressive atmosphere made it difficult to even speak. After 3 moves, Sun Liang retreated again and again. The lightning instantly blasted the surrounding buildings into rubble, kicking up a large cloud of dust. When the last bolt of divine lightning fell, a golden bolt of lightning tore through the sky. The sword in Sun Liang's hand was knocked away. He vomited a mouthful of blood and landed on the roof of a pavilion. It looks like my intuition was right. After comprehending the immortal will of thunder, the lightning tribulation saber technique is indeed very promising. Xiao Chen thought joyfully. Right now, he lacked a saber technique. He was not in a rush because he still had the lightning tribulation saber technique. The lightning tribulation saber technique was created by the heavenly saber pavilion's ancestor. Furthermore, there was much room for improvement. Now that Xiao Qin had comprehended a will, he had seen the divine-grade lightning talisman. He could use his current comprehensions to develop the lightning tribulation saber technique once more, changing it into a saber technique that was most suitable for him. Today, he used Sun Liang to test his skills, which further strengthened Xiao Qian's thoughts. Looking up slightly, Xiao Qian saw that Sun Liang was about to get up and run. His gaze turned cold, and two balls of blazing lightning burst out from under his feet. In the sea formed by the hazy lightning, there seemed to be two blue dragons breaking out of the sea. An explosive power gushed out from under his feet, bringing Xiao Qian to the top of Sun Liang's head in an instant. Bang! Xiao Qian stomped on Sun Liang's chest, pushing him back without any hesitation. The 100 slender heavenly sage laws around Sun Liang danced around continuously, bursting out with horrifying energy as he tried to get back up. Xiao Qian smiled coldly, and the purple talisman in his sea of consciousness spun quickly. Rings of light from his will merged with the heavenly sage laws in his body, and the energy poured into his feet wildly. When Xiao Qian's feet landed on Sun Liang's chest, no matter how Sun Liang struggled or roared, he could not get back up. Sun Liang let out cries of humiliation and dissatisfaction. A strong wind blew in the surroundings. The energy from the heavenly sage laws rippled out, making space look blurry. However, all of this was useless. Sun Liang, who was being trampled on by Xiao Qian, could not change the outcome. In the distance, where the light of Xiao Qian's will could not reach, the cultivators who saw this miserable scene looked at Sun Liang with sympathy. A bona fide martial sage was an overlord no matter where he went. Today, a youth trampled on him, unable to move at all. Xiao Qian pressed the scabbard against Sun Liang's forehead, and a killing chi flowed up the scabbard and entered Sun Liang's mind. The bone-chilling aura caused the struggling Sun Liang to instantly lose his temper and become well-behaved. Xiao Qian asked calmly, "Let me ask you one more time. Why is the Eternal Heavenly Sword School collecting dragon bones on such a large scale?" As this matter concerned the Thunder King's death, Xiao Qian had no choice but to take such forceful measures. He wanted to destroy the other party's bottom line, both mentally and physically. "I don't know. This is the Supreme Elder's idea. I am not really a major character in the Eternal Heavenly Sword School." Sun Liang's eyes were filled with horror, and his voice trembled as he spoke. Xiao Qian's eyes lit up as he looked into the depths of the other party's eyes. His expression did not change. Perhaps the other party did not know the complete sequence of events, but he would at least know some clues. Qi! The scabbard exerted some force, and blood immediately flowed out of Sun Liang's forehead. Xiao Qian did not say anything. He only increased the intensity of his killing qi. "I really don't know. I only know that he seems to be here to refine." Just as Sun Liang was about to say something crucial, something strange happened. A flying sword flickering with fluorescent light suddenly shot at Xiao Qian. Xiao Qian casually caught it. However, he had not expected this ordinary-looking sword strike to have such a strong might. It sent him flying with a jolt. The energy of the flying sword did not come from the spiritual energy of the world or the owner's quintessence. Instead, it came from the flying sword itself. Xiao Qian felt like he had seen the aura of the flying sword somewhere before. When he looked carefully, he discovered that the fluorescent light on the flying sword was not mental energy, quintessence, or vital qi. This was not mental strength, true essence, or physical strength. It was also not the energy produced by the fusion of the three. This was magic power. The Eros demon Ling Yu had once helped Xiao Qian condense some magic energy, which was exactly the same as this fluorescent light. This flying sword was a bona fide magic treasure. Xiao Qian looked up. At some point in time, a black-cloaked man had appeared. The black-cloaked man quickly stretched out his hand, and an invisible hand grabbed Sun Liang. The black-cloaked man immediately hoisted Sun Liang's weak body onto his shoulder. Then, the person under the cloak recalled the flying sword back into his sleeve. Then, he tossed out an ancient-looking handkerchief and stood on it. Space flashed, and he vanished into thin air. This action was very fast, so fast that Xiao Chen could not react. Damn it! Xiao Chen cursed. His sea of consciousness surged as he looked around. He felt a strange fluctuation in the air in a certain direction, and his gaze immediately narrowed. Electric light burst out from under Xiao Chen's feet. He did not hesitate to give chase. When he raised his leg, he crossed 5 kilometers. Electric light burst out, and the blue dragon soared into the sky. Xiao Chen stepped on air in hot pursuit. In a few breaths, Xiao Chen left the vast Hunluo city far behind. After traveling 50 kilometers out of the city, Xiao Chen frowned and suddenly stopped. Xiao Chen circulated his energy for the Kunpeng fist, and his heavenly sage laws circulated. The sky suddenly turned dark. A huge shadow blocked out all the sunlight. The Kunpeng hates the sky for being too low. Xiao Chen roared and spread his arms like wings. Then, he flew towards a certain spot in the air. Then, without saying a word, he punched at a certain spot in the air. There was nothing there. Aside from air, there was nothing there. Ripples appeared in space, and a figure appeared. Everything seemed like it had purposely appeared before Xiao Chen's fist. It was very strange. A loud explosion resounded. Before the mysterious black-cloaked man could react, Xiao Chen's Kunpeng fist struck him. Ka xie! Ka xie! Crisp sounds rang out. The mysterious man's black cloak tore, and he vomited a mouthful of blood as he flew back 5 kilometers. This punch blasted Sun Liang, who was on the mysterious man's shoulder, into a mist of blood. Without any heavenly sage laws, the inner vest Xiao Chen wore was just a dead object. It did not have any effect at all. Xiao Chen stretched out his hand and grabbed the spatial ring in the mist of blood. Then, he soared into the air and teleported, appearing before the black-cloaked man. Huh. Aside from the deity race geniuses, I have never seen anyone in the younger generation with such vast mental energy like you. However, I am very curious. How did you know that my treasure can only travel 50 kilometers in one go? Without the hood covering his face, the man's appearance was surprisingly young. He was spirited and handsome, looking rather elegant and quick-witted. There was a wave of immortal energy flowing around him. He coughed softly and looked at Xiao Chen with eyes filled with spirituality. He did not seem to be afraid of Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen raised his guard and said indifferently, "I don't know, and I don't need to know. As long as I know that you are not traveling into the void, I am confident of catching up to you." Interesting. Alright, you have already helped me kill him. Goodbye. Xiao Chen smiled coldly and said, "Do you think you can leave? You are just a golden core cultivator who has not even formed a Yuanying, yet you still want to leave after being severely injured by me." This person was stunned. Clearly, he had not expected Xiao Chen to figure out his identity with one glance. However, he remained calm after that. He said, "You are quite knowledgeable. However, you really cannot stop me." Suddenly, the black-cloaked man swung his hand, and a golden rope appeared. The rope quickly elongated and flew towards Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's expression changed slightly. He recognized this magic treasure for trapping people. However, he did not know what rank it was, so he quickly dodged. "I cannot kill you, but you cannot do anything to me either. Leave quickly. The Eternal Heavenly Sword School is not as simple as you think." The mysterious man smiled gently and opened his hand. That handkerchief reappeared in front of him. Then, he stepped on it and vanished into thin air. That rope was rather difficult to deal with. After it locked onto Xiao Chen, he could not shake it off no matter what. Furthermore, it was made of an unknown material, it was extremely difficult to break. Ka xie. Ka xie. After the time it took to brew a pot of tea, Xiao Chen circulated all his quintessence and swung his saber 4 times before he finally managed to chop the rope into 5 pieces. The mysterious man in the distance seemed to feel that his magic treasure had been broken. A pained expression appeared on his face. He said sullenly, "This fellow is really monstrous. He actually managed to break the dragon trapping rope that master gave me to protect my life." However, Xiao Chen's expression turned even more unsightly. Unexpectedly, an ordinary rope had entangled him for so long. Chapter 781. Ao Jiao, are there still sects in the Kunlun realm that preserve the inheritances of immortal arts? Ao Jiao replied softly, "I'm not sure. I heard that in the easternmost region of the Kunlun realm, in the depths of the chaotic demonic sea, there are still some sects that preserve the inheritances of immortal arts. However, they do not have many inheritances, they are extremely limited. Furthermore, immortal cultivation is not like the martial Tao, where everyone can cultivate it. Without an immortal destiny, one cannot even reach the basic level. Those sects are not considered major powers." Xiao Chen entered deep thought. Although the compendium of cultivation in his mind contained the systematic knowledge of talismans, formations, medicinal pills, and immortal arts, there were very few high-ranked immortal arts. However, there were very few high-grade immortal techniques, and all of them required magic power to activate. The immortal arts and talismans that could use mental energy to cultivate were of lower ranks. They were not as mighty as the various martial techniques, not to mention heaven-ranked martial techniques. Hence, Xiao Chen had neglected the cultivation of immortal arts. Instead of using his time to cultivate low-ranked magic techniques, he would be much more efficient in cultivating martial techniques. However, after the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation broke through to the 7th layer, there would be a major change. If Xiao Chen really had an immortal destiny, he might be able to cultivate magic energy. Xiao Chen collected his thoughts and said, "Unfortunately, Sun Liang still died. There is no way to know why the Eternal Heavenly Sword School was collecting dragon bones. There is no need to feel unfortunate. I already guessed it." When he said "refined," the last word should be the medicinal pill. The only medicinal pill that requires so many dragon bones to refine is the True Dragon Life Replenishing Pill. True Dragon Life Replenishing Pill? Ao Jiao nodded and said, "That's right. It is the True Dragon Fame Pill, a peerless medicinal pill that can extend Emperor Wu's lifespan. It looks like that Eternal Heavenly Sword Sage did enter Emperor Wu. However, his talent is not good, and he does not have much lifespan left. To refine the True Dragon Fame Pill, one needs a special flame. Only the chaotic demonic sea has it. I guess that person was the cultivator that the Eternal Heavenly Sword School invited to refine medicinal pills." A light flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes as he said, "In that case, this Eternal Sky Sword Sage really is related to the Thunder King's death." Ao Jiao said in a deep voice, "I've seen this person before. Back then, he was guided by the Thunder King many times. With his talent, if he didn't have great help, he definitely wouldn't be able to enter Emperor Wu's realm. The death of the Thunder King is most likely related to him." When Xiao Chen returned to Hunluo City with a heavy heart, he saw Bai Qi and Xianyuan Zhantian. The two of them thanked him for helping out. "Ha ha! I really underestimated you. It is hard to predict who will emerge victorious in your one-year appointment with Bai Wuxue." Xiao Chen could even trample an inferior-grade martial sage under his feet, rendering him immobile. Naturally, Bai Qi and Lu Jingning did not doubt Xiao Chen's strength. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and did not say anything. Now that he knew that the Eternal Heavenly Sword School was related to the Thunder King's death, he felt even more anxious. As a rank 8 sect, the Eternal Heavenly Sword School had far more than one inferior-grade martial sage. It would be extremely difficult to find the Eternal Sky Emperor Wu, who was in closed-door cultivation somewhere, and ask him about the true cause of the Thunder King's death. However, no matter how difficult it was, Xiao Chen had to try. Be it for Ao Jiao or his own promise, he could not give up so easily. After saying goodbye to the two, Xiao Chen headed for the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion in the city. There were no major auctions taking place recently, so there were not many cultivators coming and going in front of the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion. Xiao Chen stopped and looked at the signboard with golden words on it, entering deep thought. After hesitating for a while, Xiao Chen entered. When he saw someone in the hall, his eyes could not help but light up. A pretty maidservant smiled faintly as she walked over to Xiao Chen. This was Xiao Mei, who had served him in the past. Young Master Xiao, after not seeing you for half a year, your strength has improved again. Congratulations. Xiao Mei's red lips parted, and her melodious and pleasing voice rang out. I wonder, what is young master's purpose in coming to the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion? Xiao Chen did not bother saying anything. He immediately took out a piece of paper and listed several spirit herbs and medicinal flowers on it. These were all the ingredients needed to refine the breaking sage pill. Some of the ingredients were very precious, the kind that could only be found and not sought. Xiao Chen had not expected to collect them all in one go. He only instructed Xiao Chen to give him double the amount of everything he could collect. After that, he specifically instructed Xiao Chen to buy the heart-nourishing flower if there were any. The heart-nourishing flower was a necessity for cultivating the firmament body tempering art to the next layer. In the past, Xiao Chen did not have astral coins. Even if he came across it, he could not afford it. Now that he had astral coins, he naturally had to pay attention to it. After Xiao Mei listened carefully and recorded everything down, she smiled and said, Young Master Xiao, please wait in the pavilion first. I will go and help you arrange it. Furthermore, the Nangong Venerate has been waiting for you for a long time already. This development stunned Xiao Chen slightly. This woman, Ying Qiong, has not left yet. In the pavilion on the third floor of the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion, the spacious room looked very elegant and quiet. The incense burner on the tea table gave off white smoke. Ying Qiong returned to her usual noble and imposing appearance. She looked elegant and refined, elegant and refined. As she watched Xiao Chen walk to the door, she smiled faintly. Young Master Xiao, after half a year, you are even more elegant than before. You are even able to trample on a bona fide inferior grade martial sage. This little girl admires and respects you. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and stepped forward. His footsteps were silent, but they carried an invisible force that struck the ground. When Xiao Chen was only 10 steps away from the tea table, his gaze sank. Then, he attacked at lightning speed, throwing a punch at Ying Qiong. Putting down the teacup, Ying Qiong pushed off with her feet and gently drifted backward. Xiao Chen landed on the tea table and pushed off the ground, giving chase. His body soared into the air, and his right leg kicked out with a whistling sound. Dang! 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 The two of them did not use any quintessence or vital qi in the room. They simply exchanged blows, their fists and feet clashing, giving off powerful sounds. Soon, the two exchanged 100 moves. Their figures flew around the pavilion, moving back and forth. As they attacked and defended, they advanced and retreated. However, no one managed to gain the upper hand. Suddenly, Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and stretched out his hand to grab Ying Qiong's fist. Then, he used some strength to prevent her from struggling free. Ying Qiong's pretty face changed slightly. After trying a few times, she discovered that she was no match for Xiao Chen in terms of physical strength. However, she did not really want to fight with Xiao Chen. She could not help but say angrily, "Let go." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and did not say anything. He directly pulled, catching Ying Qiong off guard. Then, he stretched out his hand and pulled her into his embrace. An elegant fragrance came from the girl in his embrace. With a gentle sniff, Xiao Chen poked his head out. Their eyes met, and their noses nearly touched. This posture looked very ambiguous. The two spun around and gently landed on the tea table. Let go of me. What are you doing? Ying Qiong frowned. She could not figure out what Xiao Chen was trying to do, so she felt very nervous. Ying Qiong opened her mouth and exhaled hot air, making Xiao Chen's face feel very comfortable. Feeling the girl struggling, Xiao Chen could not help but put more strength into his arms. When their eyes met, Ying Qiong saw Xiao Chen's clear eyes and a playful expression. She could not help but feel guilty. Bo! Unexpectedly, Xiao Chen tapped gently and his lips landed on Ying Qiong's tender, red lips. The air seemed to freeze. Ing Qiong's eyes widened in shock. She could no longer care about anything else. Quintessence surged from her body, trying to push Xiao Chen away. However, Xiao Chen raised his head and smiled, dodging in advance. Bang! 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 Some of the decorations nearby shattered, crushed by Ing Qiong's quintessence. As Ing Qiong stood on the tea table, her pretty face turned cold. A faint murderous intent appeared in her eyes as she said in a frosty voice, "Xiao Chen, you are really bold. Are you not afraid that I will fall out with you?" Xiao Chen laughed loudly and said, "If there were people who could make me stay in this flourishing heaven pavilion, would you still be so polite to me? If you want to ask me if I have another core painting piece, just say so." Xiao Chen's spiritual sense detected four martial sages in Hunluo City's flourishing heaven pavilion. Among them, there was even a medial-grade martial sage. With such strength, it was no wonder no one dared to cause trouble within 5 kilometers of the flourishing heaven pavilion. However, it was not realistic to keep Xiao Chen, who had merged Thunder Steps and the Blue Dragon Cloud Soaring Art. Even if he could not defeat a medial-grade martial sage, he could still leave. Xiao Chen had once nearly died because of this girl. He could not beat her up or kill her. However, he had to take some advantage of her. Hence, the earlier kiss. Now that this girl was clearly furious but could not do anything to him, Xiao Chen achieved his goal. He felt much happier in his heart. When Ing Qiong heard Xiao Chen's words, a clear fluctuation appeared in her eyes. She said softly, "You really obtained the other core painting piece. Indeed, I guessed that the barrier would not be able to hold you for long." Right after she spoke, Ing Qiong's expression returned to normal. Suddenly, a smile appeared in her eyes as she looked meaningfully at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's skin was not thin. If the other party wanted to look, he would just let her be. His expression did not change at all. "I originally thought that young Master Xiao was extraordinary. You do not lust after beauties and have a pure Tao heart. It looks like you have surpassed this little girl's expectations. However, there are some women that you cannot touch. Do you know what kind of trouble your kiss has brought you?" Xiao Chen answered honestly, "I do not know what kind of trouble it is, but I feel much happier. My thoughts are clear now. The matter of you trapping me in the stone room back then is now even. How hateful. This fellow actually did all this just to take revenge for tricking me back then. Am I, Ing Qiong, really that unattractive?" Ing Qiong's expression changed, and the smile in her eyes vanished. After a long time, she suppressed the fluctuating emotions in her heart and said, "Very well, I will not speak nonsense with you. I need the other half of your core painting piece." Xiao Chen replied straightforwardly, "That is impossible. Don't be in a rush to reject me. I do not know what fortuitous encounter you had. It looks like you have indeed grasped the immortal epic's alchemy. However, the main ingredients of the breaking sage pill, the flaming sun fruit, the 3 holy masters' grass, and the heaven dragon flower. Even if you have astral coins, you will not be able to buy them." Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows and asked, "What are you trying to say?" "You have the breaking sage pill. If you want to advance to martial sage, you are almost certain. This core painting piece is not very useful to you. However, it is my opportunity to advance to martial sage." Ing Qiong continued, "Give me the core painting piece in your hand, and I will give you the flaming sun fruit, the 3 holy masters' grass, and the heaven dragon flower. It is a fair trade, each taking what they need." Ing Qiong's words were worth considering. Martial sage was still far from Xiao Chen's current level. However, once he accumulated sufficient accumulations in the half-sage realm, his opportunity to advance to martial sage would be in the breaking sage pill's alchemic recipe. If it was as the other party said, those 3 spirit herbs could not be bought even if one had money, that would be problematic. Chapter 782. Ao Jiao, is what she said right? Ao Jiao nodded and said, "More or less. These 3 spirit herbs surpass rank 9 and can be considered peerless. Anyone who has them would not lack astral coins. Xiao Chen said without batting an eyelid, "Can you give me these 3 spirit herbs now?" Seeing that Xiao Chen seemed to waver, Ying Qiong rejoiced. She said, "I can't, but I can think of a way to collect them for you within 1 year." Xiao Chen calculated the time. If nothing unexpected happened, he would have accumulated enough astral coins to advance to half-sage after 1 year. If the other party could really do it, he could consider it. To Xiao Chen, the core painting piece could greatly increase his strength. However, it was not an opportunity for him to advance to martial sage. If Xiao Chen could advance to martial sage 1 year earlier, his future accomplishments would be higher. For the sake of the Thunder King, he needed to advance to martial sage as soon as possible. Compared to advancing to martial sage, half a core painting piece was nothing. "Alright, I promise you. If you can really find the flaming sun fruit, the 3 holy masters' grass, and the heaven dragon flower, you can come and look for me at any time. Of course, if you wait too long, I can change my mind at any time." Ying Qiong smiled sweetly and said, "It's a deal. Take the spirit herbs you bought from the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion as a small gift from me." After a while, Xiao Mei entered the pavilion and brought out 2 sets of all the ingredients for the Breaking Sage Pill. Aside from the flaming sun fruit, the 3 holy masters' grass, and the heaven dragon flower, there were still a few spirit herbs and strange fruits that Xiao Chen had not collected. However, these were not too rare and could be found after some time. The crucial thing was the 3 spirit herbs that Ying Qiong mentioned. These were things that could only be found by luck and not sought. That was the real headache. In the end, Xiao Mei said somewhat apologetically, "As for the heart-nourishing flower, it is a rare spirit herb. Normally, no one would take it out for auction unless there is a large-scale auction. Directly consuming the heart-nourishing flower could strengthen the toughness of a cultivator's heart. The heart was the weakness of all cultivators. There was no need to worry about people not buying it." Xiao Chen didn't have much hope, so he waved his hand and let Xiao Mei go. The total value of the pile of materials was more than 2 million star coins. Ying Qiong was willing to pay for it, and Xiao Chen was also happy to let her pay for it. "This is where we part ways. Goodbye." Since he had achieved his goal, Xiao Chen didn't want to waste any more time here. He got up and left. Ying Qiong stood up to send him off. Looking at his silhouette, her jade-like hand touched her red lips. Her eyes flashed with an indescribable light as she sighed, "I don't know if it's him or me who's losing out." This lady's first kiss was actually taken away by such an unromantic person. After leaving the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion, Xiao Chen asked around about the whereabouts of the 3rd evildoer, Zhong Zhenghao, who won the bid for the Broken Thunderwood sword. He found out that Zhong Zhenghao had not returned to Hunluo City for half a year since he won the bid for the broken sword. There were rumors that Zhong Zhenghao had offended a major character in Hunluo City and did not dare to remain. So he took the broken subdivine weapon to the even more dangerous and chaotic primal chaos domain. The people gathered in Hunluo City were only human and fiend race loose cultivators. Furthermore, there was only one province. The primal chaos domain was different. It gathered all the loose cultivators of the Kunlun realm's 5 domains. It was a truly chaotic place. There was a vast difference in the degree of chaos between the two. When Xiao Chen heard this news, he could only sigh helplessly. It looked like his plan to retrieve the broken Thunderwood sword would have to be shelved indefinitely. After killing the inferior grade martial sage of the Eternal Heavenly Sword School, he could not remain here for long. Now that everything was settled, Xiao Chen directly left the city and flew for 3 days and 3 nights in one go. Then, he landed in front of a rather desolate valley. This place is already completely out of Hunluo province. There is no longer any danger. The experts from the Eternal Heavenly Sword School headquarters should not be able to find any traces of me. Xiao Chen landed in the valley and muttered to himself. In the valley filled with rocks, Xiao Chen cleared out an empty space. Then, he sat down cross-legged and entered a state of cultivation. Strands of heavenly sage laws surged in Xiao Chen's body, and his quintessence recovered at a visible rate. The clouds in his dantian slowly piled up. After using the Thunder Dragon steps for 3 days straight, Xiaochen had exhausted too much quintessence. He would not be able to recover to his peak state so quickly. Thunder Dragon Steps was a movement technique that merged Thunder Steps and the Blue Dragon Cloud Soaring art. Xiaochen gave it this name. The name was not very nice, but it fit the image. 6 hours later, Xiaochen opened his eyes. A bright light shone in his eyes, his quintessence had completely recovered. Ao Jiao, accompany me in practicing with the saber. You should have benefited a lot from your cultivation at Misleading Fog Lake, right? A beam of white light came out of the immortal spirit ring on Xiaochen's finger. Then, the petite and cute girl with a Lolita face and an exceptionally voluptuous figure floated out. 2 sabers of light materialized in Ao Jiao's hands. Her bright eyes looked at Xiaochen as she smiled. This is really rare. To think that you actually want me to accompany you in practicing with the saber. It looks like you are not as calm as I thought about your 1-year appointment with Bai Wuxue. Xiaochen revealed an expression of deep thought. Then, he said, the extreme north of the Kunlun realm is a bitter and cold land. It is desolate and uninhabited, and danger lurks everywhere. Since ancient times, many genius cultivators have fallen there. For Bai Wuxue to emerge from there, how can I underestimate him? Ao Jiao withdrew her smile and said, that's right. Back then, the Thunder King was there as well. That place was a world of ice and snow. In the depths, there were even some remnants of the snow race of the ancient 100 races. Even the Thunder King did not dare to underestimate their inheritance. Xiaochen's expression turned grave. He said sullenly, that is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that he has the strength to kill an inferior grade martial sage. Furthermore, he is a loose cultivator ranked in the top 10 of the evil cultivator ranking. He is not an ordinary inferior grade martial sage. Ao Jiao raised her pretty eyebrows slightly and said, hee. Don't undervalue yourself. Right now, everyone in the entire Tianwu domain does not think highly of you. They are waiting to see you make a fool of yourself. However, I believe that you will not lose. Now that the Great Era has arrived, the situation in the Tianwu domain is changing. The geniuses of the 3,000 great realms will all appear. There will definitely be a place for you on the stage of absolute geniuses. Xiaochen nodded and smiled. Then, he said, let's practice the saber. Help me test out some of my recent ideas about the lightning tribulation saber technique. Gladly. There were less than 3 months left to the 1-year promise. Including the time spent on the trip to the Extreme Insects headquarters, there was less than 2 months left for Xiaochen to comprehend the new lightning tribulation saber technique. It was almost impossible for an ordinary person to reinvent a new saber technique in 2 months. From a certain perspective, modifying a saber technique required even more time than creating a saber technique. Creating a saber technique depended on comprehension. Once one comprehended it, one could instantly create a saber technique. After that, one just had to slowly polish it. Back then, the ancestor of the heavenly saber pavilion observed a spirit beast undergoing its tribulation and gained some comprehension. In one night, he created the lightning tribulation saber technique. However, when modifying a saber technique, one had to consider its rigor. After all, a complete saber technique involved many things. If one changed it slightly, there would be changes. If one was not careful, one might end up crippling oneself. Hence, rigor was crucial. This required a cultivator's accumulation and understanding of saber techniques. The days in the valley went by one after another. As Xiaochen anxiously modified the lightning tribulation saber technique, the time for the duel approached. The time for the duel slowly approached. Several of the Tianwu domain's geniuses in closed-door cultivation also came out. Thunder and Lightning Palace. At a palace floating in thunderclouds, and Juanxi, dressed in azure, slowly walked out of the clouds. He stared at the extreme insect in the north with some anticipation in his eyes. Bolts of lightning flashed behind Juanxi in the dark clouds, creating a very terrifying mysterious phenomenon. It was like he was immersed in a sea of lightning. First senior brother. A few true inheritors passing by saw this scene and quickly flew over to greet Enjuanshi respectfully. Now, Enjuanshi had fought to a draw with the holy son, Feng Wuji. His prestige in the sect already surpassed that of several inner sect elders. The respectful expressions of these true inheritors were not fake at all, they all came from the bottom of their hearts. There is no need to stand on ceremony. How many days until the duel between Bai Wuxue and that Haoyan sect disciple? Enjuanshi asked calmly with a sharp gaze. The other disciples were somewhat confused. Why is first senior brother so concerned about this? Could it be that a person destined to become a joke is worth first senior brother coming out of closed-door cultivation early? Replying to first senior brother, the time will be up in 1 month. Bai Wuxue has already returned to the extreme Yin sect. However, there has been no news of that white-robed bladesman. He is probably afraid now. Although these disciples muttered to themselves, they still answered Enjuanshi's question in full detail. 1 month, ha! It is time for me to depart. How can someone who comprehended the immortal state of thunder be afraid? Enjuanshi revealed a smile on his face. Then, he turned into a beam of lightning and vanished from the sight of the true inheritors. This caused these true inheritors to be stunned for a long time before they managed to react. In the drill ground of the Shimen noble clan, Shimen Bao was currently sparring with a senior of the clan, exchanging pointers with his saber techniques. Every move was sharp and boundlessly exquisite. There was also an extremely ferocious aura that made others want to retreat. That old man dealt with Shimen Bao as he nodded to himself. After exchanging pointers, the old man nodded and said, "Successor, your improvement in the past year is gratifying." The old ancestors' teachings were not in vain. Shimen Bao casually wiped the sweat off his forehead. When he recalled the days of being taught by his great-grandfather, he could not help but tremble. A ferocious light flashed in Shimen Bao's eyes as he said, "For the sake of that person who once humiliated me, I have not relaxed at all in the past year. I just hope that he will not disappoint me." Jun Si slowly walked into the residence that belonged to Shui Lingling of the Haoyan sect. Jun Si whispered, "First senior sister, it is time for us to depart. The transportation formation cannot take us directly to the extreme Yin sect. It will take another month to get there." Shui Lingling raised her head, feeling somewhat fatigued. She asked, "Is there still no news of Xiaochen?" Jun Si shook her head and replied, "There is no news of junior brother Xiao within the 100 provinces of the Tianwu domain. I believe that he must have left the Tianwu domain and have to use the Bushin Palace's intelligence network to find out." Shui Lingling said helplessly, "Not just anyone can use the Bushin Palace's intelligence network. Even the sons of the 3 holy masters do not have such authority. Could something have happened to junior brother Xiao?" Jun Si asked somewhat worriedly. "Or perhaps it is like the rumors say, he is afraid to go." Chapter 783. Undetectable worry flashed in Shui Lingling's eyes. She smiled and said, "That won't happen. He promised me that he would definitely return. As for the rumors, there is no need to care about them. Let's go." The sky turned dark. Boundless thunderclouds churned like a river with huge waves, rising and falling without end. The vast sky stretched for 50 kilometers around, filled with darkness. With one glance, it looked like the sky was about to fall. It was so dark that it was scary. Pooh! Suddenly, it seemed like a strand of saber light tore through the thick dark clouds. It was like a hole appeared in the sky. Boundless light poured out, forming a dazzling pillar of light. In this dark and gloomy world, this beam of light looked exceptionally resplendent. Dang! 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 2 figures flashed in the light, quickly exchanging moves. Bolts of lightning moved around the 2 like raging pythons, causing the sky to flicker endlessly. Gradually, the surrounding lightning no longer looked like raging pythons. Instead, they turned into realistic raging pythons. The huge lightning pythons had purple scales on their bodies, clearly visible. The eyes on the snakes' heads were like lightning, revealing a ferocious look. Over 100 lightning pythons danced around the two of them. From a distance, it looked like many lightning dragons dancing in the sky. That spot of light started to move. It was like a heavenly saber slicing the dark clouds for 50 kilometers around in half. The two clashing figures continuously moved along with the light. The sound of weapons clashing was like heavenly thunder. It was oppressive and filled with boundless explosive power, causing the air to buzz. Even when the shockwave reached 3 kilometers away, its might did not diminish. Many flowers and trees trembled and withered. The two fighting were none other than Xiao Chen and Ao Jiao. After comprehending day and night, they slowly perfected their brand new lightning tribulation saber technique. When the light completely sliced through the dark clouds for 50 kilometers around, the thundercloud scattered and the darkness was swept away. The blazing sun's light poured down without holding anything back. The golden sunlight illuminated the land once more. Xiao Chen and Ao Jiao stopped fighting and turned into two streams of light. In an instant, they landed in the desolate valley. Ao Jiao gently waved her hand and put away the light saber in her hand. She smiled and said, "Hee hee. Not bad. In less than 2 months, you have more or less finished modifying the new lightning tribulation saber technique. Furthermore, its might is extraordinary. It probably won't take long for the lightning phenomenon to turn into a flood dragon." Xiao Chen smiled faintly, a look of joy on his face. By relying on the immortal will of thunder and the unforgettable divine lightning talisman deeply imprinted in his mind, the process of modifying the lightning tribulation saber technique went much smoother than Xiao Chen expected. For the new lightning tribulation saber technique, Xiao Chen removed the state of wind and the state of cloud, continuing to strengthen the state of thunder. Without wind and clouds, there would be no thunder. Only when the wind and clouds changed could thunder move in all directions. This was the old lightning tribulation saber technique. If Xiao Chen wanted to bring out its might to great perfection, he needed to have some understanding of the state of wind and the state of cloud. However, now, Xiao Chen gave up on it. The reason was that he simply did not have the time to comprehend the state of wind and the state of cloud. Rumor had it that in some of the large-scale auctions in the Kunlun realm, there were crystals that could allow one to comprehend all sorts of states after consuming them. Unfortunately, they were very expensive. Even large-scale auctions could not be held on a whim. Distant water could not quench present thirst. The more important reason was that even if Xiao Chen comprehended the state of wind and cloud and brought out the might of the old lightning tribulation saber technique to great perfection, it would only be a peak earth-ranked martial technique equal to the four-season saber technique. In the end, it was not a heaven-ranked martial technique. It could not keep up with Xiao Chen's current progress. He needed to completely break the rules and come up with a revolutionary innovation. He needed to forge the new lightning tribulation saber technique into a saber technique equal to a heaven-ranked martial technique. Furthermore, it needed to have a stable room for improvement, something that could accompany him for a long time. Since there was no wind or clouds, how could there be lightning? Without lightning, how could there be a lightning tribulation saber technique? The idea that Xiao Chen came up with was very simple. In the past, the scattered state of thunder had extraordinary might. However, it was scattered, after all. Now, the immortal state of thunder was completely condensed. The lightning that it casually shot out was no weaker than natural lightning. That was right. The idea that Xiao Chen came up with was to use his immortal will of thunder to replace the lightning produced by the collision of wind and cloud, using it in the lightning tribulation saber technique. As the might of the immortal will of thunder increased, the lightning tribulations that the lightning tribulation saber technique materialized would continuously increase as well. This would be sufficient to accompany Xiao Chen for a long time. Using one's body as lightning to materialize a tribulation was the essence of the new lightning tribulation saber technique. Aside from the last 3 moves of the new lightning tribulation saber technique, the starting moves and storing up power all changed. Xiao Chen pulled it into 12 moves. There were 6 basic moves, 3 moves of lightning gathering, and 3 moves of killing. Collecting his wandering thoughts, Xiao Chen looked to the north of the boundless sky and muttered, "It is time to set off." Along the way, I will try to upgrade the Berserk Lightning Python mysterious phenomenon to a Lightning Flood Dragon. Naturally, this inspiration came from the tens of thousands of true dragons around the Divine Lightning Talisman. Naturally, it was impossible to make lightning transform into a true dragon in one step. Xiao Qin could only take it slow, taking it step by step. Starting from the Berserk Python, then the Lightning Flood Dragon, then the True Dragon, and finally the True Dragon Lightning. The blazing sun shone down from the sky, casting a long shadow on Xiao Qin. Ao Jiao looked at the radiant Xiao Qin. Her lips curled up in a satisfied smile. The two figures turned into beams of light and flew out of the valley, disappearing into the sky. Target, the first 9 ranks of the great families of the north, the Extremine sect. The Extremine sect was the top sect of the 27 northern provinces. Among the 9 ranks of the great families of the entire Tianwu domain, this sect was second only to the Thunder and Lightning Palace, which the Thunder King presided over. The sect had 20,000 disciples. On the surface, there were 2 Emperor Wu, who guarded the sect all year round. Even after experiencing several demonic calamities, the sect did not fall. Outside the vast starry heavens, there were still many Emperor Wu of the Extremine sect. Such a secret was not something that outsiders could know. Over the long years, the Extremine sect had become the center of the north, establishing a high prestige. In terms of prestige and status, the Extremine sect was much higher than the top sect of the south, the Haotian sect. Practically no sect in the north dared to oppose the Extremine sect. They relied on absolute strength and accumulations. As for the Haotian sect's prestige, it relied more on its new top true inheritor, Shui Lingling. Its strength and accumulations were not much higher than the Full Moon Pavilion and the Thousand Mystery sect, which were also in the south. Normally, the Extremine sect was very lively. There would always be cultivators from the other sects in the north coming to ask for advice or spend large sums of money to buy medicinal pills, spirit weapons, and spirit-gathering pearls from Extremine City. However, today, the Extremine sect was exceptionally noisy. A large group of cultivators had already gathered at the challenge peak outside Extremine City. Thousands of beams of light could be seen from the horizon, heading for the summit. The challenge peaks of the various sects were all about the same. A major character had shaved off the summit and turned it into a vast drill ground. At the center of the martial practice grounds was an enormous arena meticulously constructed from various precious ores, and not far from the arena was a bronze bell that was filled with an ancient charm. When the bell rang, it meant that the challenge had begun. A figure stood quietly on the arena with his eyes closed, deep in thought. Wisps of faintly discernible cold air spread out from his body, causing the air to become extremely cold for no apparent reason. This was the top true inheritor of the Extremine sect. Despite the changes in the Tianwu continent, his fame did not diminish, one of the 7 giants, Bai Wuxue. The beams of light heading for the summit immediately stopped a kilometer away from the summit, not advancing any further. Everyone knew that Bai Wuxue had personally killed an inferior-grade martial sage loose cultivator 3 months ago. If they really fought later, the shockwaves would quickly spread to the entire summit. However, not many people believed that Xiao Qin would come. It is almost noon already. That white-robed blades man still has not appeared. He probably will not come. How could he dare to come? Right now, Bai Wuxue does not even care about inferior-grade martial sages. He most likely comprehended a will. Now that I think about it, what that brat said back then was just a joke. After all, Bai Wuxue is Bai Wuxue. I guess he received news that a lower-realm demonic genius that challenged Bai Wuxue not long ago directly crushed him to pieces, frightening that brat. The Sage War of the Proud Son of Heaven ranking will start soon. Perhaps Bai Wuxue will be able to fight against the 4 holy scions. Similar voices rang out in the crowd in the air. The rumors all favored Bai Wuxue. No one thought highly of Xiao Qin. In the end, strength reigned supreme in the Kunlun realm. Now that Bai Wuxue had defeated a martial sage with his fist, his fame grew. Naturally, the winds would change. A tyrannical beam of light flew by. It was the Shiman noble clan's Shiman Bao. When he saw the lonely Bai Wuxue in the arena, disappointment flashed in his eyes. Soon after, the passionate young master, Murong Lingfeng, the top genius of the battle realms, Niu Dang, the top bladesman of the south, Feng Xingsheng, and the mysterious swordsman, Duan Yi, who had been in the limelight recently, all arrived. The arrival of so many young demonic geniuses surpassed everyone's expectations. Some had not expected this, so discussions broke out. Just at this moment, a huge purple bird slowly flew over from the distance. Someone immediately recognized it as the Haotian sect Shui Lingling's spirit beast, the profound sun bird. Look, the Haotian sect's people are here. The white-robed brat is really not up there. Some sharp-eyed people did not discover Xiao Chen's figure above, so they immediately made a big fuss. The Haotian sect's people on the bird's back could not help but show unsightly expressions. Jun Si frowned and said, "These people are really snobs." First senior sister, could it be that junior brother Xiao Chen is really not here? Someone behind Jun Si asked. Just as Shui Lingling was about to answer, she heard a commotion in the crowd. She turned around to take a look. Behind her, a thundercloud scattered. It was the newly promoted Holy Scion, Enjuanshi, who had arrived. Enjuanshi's appearance immediately raised the atmosphere to a climax. Even Bai Wuxue, who had his eyes closed in deep thought, suddenly opened them. Snowflakes flashed in his eyes, materializing a boundless mysterious phenomenon of 5,000 kilometers of ice, blazing with a boundless fighting spirit. Enjuanshi smiled faintly. His figure flashed, and he landed on a nearby peak, no longer bothering with Bai Wuxue. Chapter 784. Time slowly went by, but Xiao Chen still had not arrived. The cultivators, who originally had some interest and hope, all lost their patience. Several of them even started cursing in low voices. What bullshit agreement of 1 year? He is just a coward. To think that Bai Wuxue even formally acknowledged him. It turns out that he is only a so-so. Even if he did not want to come, he could have just sent someone to admit defeat. He made us wait for so long for nothing. He has thoroughly embarrassed the Haotian sect. When Jun Si and the others on the profound sun bird heard these discussions, they could not help but show even more anxious and unsightly expressions. Regardless of the reason for Xiao Chen's cowardice before the fight had even begun, the Haotian sect's reputation had been tarnished. Jun Si said hesitantly, "First senior sister, I think we should discuss this. Dragging this out is not a solution." Shui Lingling's gentle face remained calm as usual. She said calmly, "Don't worry. Since he promised me that he would return safely, he will definitely rush over." Boom! Just as some of the extreme Yin sect elders were getting impatient and wanted to announce Xiao Chen's forfeit, a bolt of purple lightning suddenly tore through the sky. It was like a spear descending. In an instant, it crashed into that bronze bell. Within a radius of 5 kilometers, the deafening sound of a bell rang out incessantly. When the bell rang, the rumbling thunder and the deep chime merged together, echoing everywhere and rushing to the clouds. A figure landed somewhat hurriedly. As he looked at Bai Wuxue, who was in front of the arena, he said calmly, "Xiao Chen has arrived on time for the agreement of 1 year." On the profound sun bird, Shui Lingling's pretty face melted like water. An indescribable joy appeared on her face as she smiled and said, "I just knew that he would rush over." The bell's chime resounded endlessly. The purple lightning that descended from the sky was still very mighty. Arcs of electricity crackled and danced around the ancient bronze bell, showing no signs of stopping. The moment the white figure appeared, the cultivators hovering in the air a kilometer away from the challenge peak could not help but look over. He really made it. He knows that he will lose, but he still dares to come and fight. He has some guts. He's just asking to be humiliated. What does it matter whether he comes or not? You can't say that. Cowering before a fight and coming as promised are two completely different things. Let me ask you, if we knew that Bai Wuxue could kill half-sages, would we have the courage to come and fight? That's right. No matter what, I admire your courage. Xiao Chen's arrival was out of many people's expectations, and the criticism about him lessened by a lot. Knowing that he would lose, he still dared to fight. This courage earned Xiao Chen a lot of positive evaluations for his victory. Shimen Bao smiled, and a murderous intent appeared on his face. He said in a cold voice, "I hope that Bai Wuxue can spare your life. Otherwise, this will be too boring." The top genius of the battle realms, Niu Deng, had a similarly hostile gaze. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he said, "Unexpectedly, you managed to break through to half-sage in 1 year. However, you do not stand a chance against Bai Wuxue." The passionate young master, Murong Lingfeng, and the full moon pavilion's Feng Xingsheng both showed expressions of pity. Xiao Chen managed to break through to half-sage in 1 year. Such talent could be considered top-notch even in the current age of martial artists where heroes were rising together. Unfortunately, Xiao Chen ran into Bai Wuxue. Defeat was certain. It all depended on whether Bai Wuxue was willing to spare Xiao Chen's life or not. Otherwise, if Xiao Chen fell here, it would truly be a pity. Ordinary cultivators would not be able to see the heavenly sage laws behind Xiao Chen. However, these peak experts could see it with one glance. Although they could not see it clearly, the fact that Xiao Chen could comprehend heavenly sage laws proved that he was a martial sage. Such a cultivation realm and talent shocked several people. However, they still did not think much of Xiao Chen, as his opponent was simply too horrifying. He could even kill a martial sage. How heaven-defying was he? How demonic was he? So what if Xiao Chen advanced to half-sage? Among everyone, only Juanxi, who was on another peak, looked up at Xiao Chen thoughtfully. A strange light flashed in his eyes. The extreme Yin sect elder looked coldly at Xiao Chen and said expressionlessly, "When the bell rings, life and death will be decided by heaven. The duel will begin immediately." After saying that, he floated away from the mountain peak without saying anything else. Bai Wuxue wore robes of alternating blue and white. His handsome face was cold, showing neither joy nor sorrow. When he saw Xiao Chen rushing over, his expression did not change at all. "I haven't seen you for a year, and you've advanced to the half-saint realm. Not bad. Unfortunately, I didn't stop. If I admit defeat now, I can let you live. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to stop later." Bai Wuxue said indifferently as he looked straight at Xiao Chen. He had absolute confidence in his strength. Xiao Chen's pupils constricted. He smiled faintly and said, "Is that so? In that case, I'll return those words to you. I'm afraid I won't be able to stop myself." Bai Wuxue did not get angry. Instead, he smiled. Snowflakes drifted down from the sky for no reason. Soon, a thick layer of snow covered the ground. Holy icy palm imprint. Bai Wuxue took a step forward and threw a palm strike. A huge icy palm appeared out of nowhere and smashed towards Xiao Chen. Compared to the great icy palm imprint of the past, this holy icy palm imprint seemed more spiritual. It seemed to merge with the world. Xiao Chen looked up. Amid the snowflakes, he could even vaguely see an ancient sage sitting in the air. This palm strike came from that sage and not from Bai Wuxue. This is the extreme Yin sect's superior grade heaven-ranked martial technique. No one has succeeded in practicing it for several hundred years already. It has an extremely high comprehension ability. It looks like this Bai Wuxue does not intend to waste time with Xiao Chen. The moment he makes his move, he wants to kill him. It's over. Bai Wuxue is too direct. There is nothing to see in this battle. The moment this palm strike was sent out, it elicited startled cries. Unexpectedly, Bai Wuxue had even succeeded in practicing this move. Shui Lingling and the true inheritors of the Supreme Sky sect, who were on the profound sun bird, could not help but show nervous expressions. Interesting. However, that should not be all you are capable of. Xiao Chen looked around and made up his mind. His figure flashed as he quickly dodged. The ice palm imprint, which was circulating with holy light, directly cracked the arena with a bang, and the entire mountaintop was shaking. The might of the holy icy palm imprint was very impressive. Boom! 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 The palm was like a mountain as it pressed down on the dodging Xiao Chen. The entire mountain started shaking intensely. The arena crumbled into countless shards, filling the air. The moment it started, the battle spread across the entire mountaintop. The cultivators watching from afar had great foresight. Before that huge palm, Xiao Chen seemed very insignificant. As he dodged continuously, it was a shocking sight. Every time, he would be nearly suppressed. After dodging a few times, Xiao Chen found an opportunity. He pushed off the ground and nimbly dodged the holy icy palm imprints. Then, he soared into the air and charged at Bai Wuxue. Such an ingenious and nimble movement technique attracted many praises. However, Bai Wuxue smiled coldly and quickly formed hand seals. His lips curled up in a mocking smile as he said, "I was just waiting for you. Die!" Suddenly, two incomparably huge icy palm imprints appeared in the air. Then, Bai Wuxue pressed his hands together, looking like two mountain peaks about to merge together. In an instant, they trapped Xiao Chen. This sudden scene caused many people's expressions to change greatly. Xiao Chen, who was trapped between the two palms, looked very insignificant. There was no chance for him to dodge. If Xiao Chen got caught between the palms, he would not have a chance to survive. Unexpectedly, Bai Wuxue still had such a trump card. Just as everyone's hearts leaped to their throats, a majestic and resonant sagely song suddenly rang out. A golden light descended from the sky. The resonant sagely song recounted the legend of Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's past deeds materialized into golden scrolls flickering in the sky. As the sagely song rang out, the gears of time spun. The legend turned into an epic of vicissitudes, then into a glorious myth. Many people had an illusion. Looking at the picture scroll that flashed between heaven and earth, it was as if they were looking at ancient history and imprints. They felt a sense of worship. Bang! Xiao Chen punched to the sides and infused the legendary energy into his fists. Before everyone's shocked gazes, the two holy ice palm imprints shattered into ice shards that filled the air. The ice shards reflected the light of the sun, giving off a multicolored light that formed a dreamy scene. In this scene, Xiao Chen's white robes gave off the feeling of a celestial being in heaven. You are not the only one who knows a superior grade heaven-ranked martial technique. Xiao Chen smiled coldly to himself. Then, a clump of electric light burst out from under his feet as he instantly executed Thunder Dragon steps. Xiao Chen's figure flickered, and he sent out a radiance of deities. The situation instantly reversed. Xiao Chen, who had been fleeing all over the place, actually turned from defense to offense. Bai Wuxue's face sank. Clearly, he had not expected Xiao Chen to break his holy ice palm imprint so easily. When Bai Wuxue saw that majestic, resplendent pillar of light, he stomped on the ground. Rumble. Suddenly, a 3-kilometer-tall snowy mountain rose behind him. A white-robed sage sat at the peak of the snowy mountain. In that instant, this place firmly stabilized. Bai Wuxue did not move his feet at all as he directly threw a palm strike at the incoming pillar of light. The sage at the peak of the snowy mountain opened his eyes and sent out a palm strike at the same time as Bai Wuxue's palm strike. It seemed like the two's movements overlapped. When the sage made his move, ancient sagely music resounded in the sky, sounding very distant. Instantly, snowflakes fell from the sky, drifting even faster. There were even several snow tornadoes spinning wildly in the distant sky. Such a mysterious phenomenon was truly horrifying. The cultivators watching from a kilometer away could not help but move back another 5 kilometers. The overwhelming might was as immovable as a mountain. Bai Wuxue firmly caught this majestic, resplendent light with his palm. His feet did not move at all. He even froze that light into ice, shattering it piece by piece. I have obtained the inheritance of the ancient snow race. No matter how strong you are just a joke before me. When Bai Wuxue saw the light turn into ice shards, he could not help but smile cockily when he easily dealt with his startlingly mighty move. So what if you can shatter my cold ice hand imprint? You will still be defeated. However, before Bai Wushue's smile froze, Xiaochen had already arrived before him. Xiaochen did not feel dispirited at having his deity's light imprint dissolved. All Xiaochen wanted was to get close to Bai Wuxue. Clearly, he had already achieved his goal. Myriad Heaven Divine Fist, tenfold combat prowess, deities descending. A beam of divine light tore through the barrier of the sky and entered Xiaochen's body, causing his aura to soar. Everything in the world seemed to want to prostrate in worship. Before this aura, the snowflakes falling from the sky suddenly froze. It was like time stopped. Xiaochen roared ferociously, and a golden light spread out. His white robes fluttered, and his long hair gave off beams of light as he punched. Bai Wuxue, who had received this move head-on, had not expected Xiaochen to suddenly bring out tenfold his combat prowess. The snowy mountain behind him started to crumble in an instant. The sage who was sitting at the peak of the mountain was blown to pieces. Break! The 3-kilometer-tall snowy mountain crumbled, and Bai Wushue's momentum broke. He went flying back like an arrow. In the blink of an eye, he flew back 1 kilometer and landed outside the platform at the summit. The snowflakes stopped dancing, and the strong wind stopped howling. Xiaochen stood calmly on the summit, looking coldly at Bai Wuxue, who was filled with shock and incredulity. The surroundings were quiet. The situation on the battlefield changed in an instant. Just a few moves had already made everyone's heart surge with excitement. No one had expected such a result. Unexpectedly, that white-robed brat knocked Bai Wuxue into the air. Chapter 785. In the distance, Shimen Bao's pupils constricted slightly. Shock appeared in his eyes as he said softly, "What exactly did this fellow experience in the past year? To think that he managed to gain the upper hand." However, Feng Xingxing frowned slightly. He whispered, "This fellow has only practiced this fist technique for 1 year? In that case, I am too disappointed. No matter how ferocious this fist technique was, it was still unorthodox to a bladesman. Furthermore, he could not defeat Bai Wuxue with just this fist technique." Bai Wuxue hovered in the air, and his expression turned grave. As he looked at Xiaochen, he no longer looked down on him like he did at the beginning. "After not seeing him for a year, it looks like not only did I have a fortuitous encounter, but you are also extraordinary. However, just based on this, you will still lose." Bai Wushue's face sank as he turned into a beam of cold light. Everywhere he passed, he left behind a crystalline beam of light in the air, giving off a cold light. Suddenly, the figure of that sage appeared once again. Beams of cold light flowed in the air, giving off a boundless might. The cold light flashed, and heavy snow fell from the sky once more. Bai Wuxue instantly arrived before Xiaochen and sent out a palm strike. Bai Wuxue did not believe that Xiaochen could continue using his tenfold combat prowess. In terms of close combat, Bai Wuxue definitely held the advantage. Bai Wuxue guessed the beginning correctly but not the end. Indeed, deities descending could not be used continuously. However, in close combat, that was not Bai Wushue's advantage. The two of them quickly started fighting. Loud explosions rang out as the lightning and the cold chi clashed, resulting in terrifying shockwaves. Soon, the shock waves from the two's battle flattened the entire mountain by about 30 centimeters. Lightning flickered amid the snowflakes, creating a wondrous scene. In an instant, the two exchanged 100 moves. As they attacked, they did not give way to each other. They did not take half a step back, giving the other a chance to gain an advantage. Xiaochen's thunder steps and Bai Wushue's mysterious cold light movement technique were brought out to their limits in the air. Those with weaker eyesight wouldn't even be able to see the afterimages of the two of them. If it weren't for the terrifying phenomenon in the air and the loud bangs that pierced straight into people's hearts, no one would think that there was some kind of earth-shattering battle going on here. Dance of snow, 100 flowers bloom. The snow turned into flowers. Thousands of pure and holy ice flowers spun gently, containing boundless killing intent. They formed a beautiful storm that swept toward Xiaochen. Energy ignited, green cloud burns the sky. Xiao Chen was not afraid at all. He directly burned half of his vital qi, and the blue sky seemed to be burning. A true dragon rolled in the sky, and a dragon claw descended from the sky. The 10,000 flowers shattered into countless ice shards that shot out in all directions. Dance of snow, 100 flowers blooming. After Bai Wushue's first move was broken, he immediately used his second move. Hundreds of flowers, roses, peonies, azaleas, parasol trees, and laurels, bloomed. They formed the 100 flowers grand array, containing a world of its own, intending to trap Xiao Chen to death. Xiao Chen's face darkened, and he did not hesitate to execute the Kunpeng fist. A massive shadow descended, and the aura of the ancient Kunpeng spread out. The rock hated the sky for being too low when it spread its wings. After the 100 flowers grand array broke, Xiao Chen broke it with one punch. Then, he continued fighting with Bai Wuxue. Such a soul-stirring battle forced the spectators to retreat another 3 kilometers. Their expressions were strange. Originally, everyone thought that this battle would end quickly. They did not expect it to be so intense. Everyone thought that Xiao Chen would definitely lose. However, not only did he come, he even managed to push Bai Wuxue to such a state. Bai Wuxue broke every move he made. He did not seem to be at a disadvantage at all. After exchanging another 100 moves, they were still evenly matched. However, Xiao Chen lost his patience. He knocked Bai Wuxue back with a punch and immediately retreated. Then, he looked at Bai Wuxue coldly. "If that is all you have, then I think you are only a so-so." With a flip of his hand, the slender lunar shadow saber appeared in Xiao Chen's palm. When the saber appeared, the crowd exclaimed softly. They suddenly realized that Xiao Chen was also a bladesman. The eyes of the top bladesman of the south, Feng Xingsheng, and Wang Meng, the bladesman of the 7 giants, immediately lit up as they quickly looked over. When Bai Wuxue saw Xiao Chen take out the lunar shadow saber, his expression remained calm. He still had a trump card that he had not used yet. He believed that as long as he threw out that trump card, no matter how strong Xiao Chen was, he would not be able to change the result. From the very start, Xiao Chen was destined to lose. Boom! Xiao Chen drew the lunar shadow saber, and a bolt of lightning immediately tore through the sky. Boundless thunderclouds churned continuously. Soon, the thick, dark clouds stretched for 50 kilometers, looking very horrifying. The instant the electric light flickered, Xiao Chen ingeniously used the Qing Emperor's drawing the saber and the starting stance of the lightning tribulation saber technique. Bai Wushue's expression changed slightly. He suddenly discovered that he could not make out the trajectory of this ordinary saber strike. He did not know where Xiao Chen would come from. So. Bai Wuxue could not help but reveal a horrified expression as he quickly retreated. However, it was already too late. A purple light flickered, and a saber light tore through the protective quintessence on Bai Wushue's chest. Then, it landed heavily on the inner vest he wore. Thunder roared, and boundless electricity exploded on the saber. Bai Wushue's body was blasted back like a cannonball. How can this be? How did he execute this saber strike? It was very stunning. The cultivators who used the saber all cried out in surprise. Even Feng Xingsheng, Wang Meng, and the other 2 became somewhat excited. Their gazes were very complicated. "After not seeing you for a year, your saber techniques did not disappoint," Feng Xingsheng muttered to himself. The look of pity in his eyes intensified. He said, "If Bai Wuxue had not comprehended a will, you might have been able to win this battle." The other people who knew about Bai Wuxue also revealed looks of pity in their eyes. After Xiao Chen executed the lunar shadow saber, he gained the upper hand in one strike. The brand new lightning tribulation saber technique forced Bai Wuxue to retreat. Bolts of electricity formed berserk pythons around him. Bai Wuxue roared ferociously. That horrifying might caused Bai Wushue's aura to plummet to rock bottom, unable to rise again. His earlier disdain and calmness vanished. He was now in a sorry state. The 100 electric pythons merged into one and released motes of golden light. Then, together with Xiao Chen's lightning tribulation, they turned into saber lights sweeping at Bai Wuxue. Bai Wuxue clenched his teeth and held on. The sage sitting on his head sent out a palm strike, and a snow mountain appeared in front of Bai Wuxue. Bai Wuxue leaped up gently, and his body merged with that sage image. He appeared very dignified as he sat on the peak of the mountain. The lightning tribulation descended, and electricity split apart. That snow mountain mysterious phenomenon started to shake continuously, looking like it would crumble at any moment. Bai Wuxue, who merged with the sage image, had a calm expression on his face. His gaze turned cold as he suddenly stood up. In that instant, the sky seemed to have risen significantly. Bai Wuxue's aura, which had fallen to rock bottom, soared back into the sky. The dark clouds above him resisted for a while before being torn apart by his aura. Under the sunlight, Bai Wuxue stood at the peak of the snow mountain. He looked very beautiful, like a god of ice and snow. Crystalline halos flowed out from under his feet. The teetering snow mountain became firm and firm in an instant. A rebounding force shot out and directly blasted the thick lightning python away. "Let's end it here." Bai Wuxue snorted coldly and looked up. The cultivators who met his gaze immediately felt an indelible chill appear in their sea of consciousness. The mysterious phenomenon of the snow mountain collapsing and the boundless storm lingered in their minds. It's a will. The will of ice. Bai Wuxue really comprehended the will of ice. No wonder he can kill martial sages. For people with a will, fighting above their cultivation realm is as easy as eating or drinking. The fear they felt on a mental level made the surrounding cultivators all cry out in alarm. There had long been rumors that Bai Wuxue comprehended the will of ice. However, rumors were just rumors. Now that they saw it for themselves, they were all greatly startled. Shimen Bao could not help but reveal a sinister smile. He said, "In the end, this fellow still managed to force Bai Wuxue to use the will of ice. Unfortunately, I cannot kill him personally." "What a pity." Feng Xingsheng and the others sighed and shook their heads. Once the will of ice was used, no matter how big of an advantage one had, it would all vanish. Even if Xiao Qin did not lose, he would not be able to escape death. Shui Lingling, who was on the profound sun bird, had a terrifyingly calm expression. At some point in time, the purple bow had appeared in her right hand. She clenched it so tightly that it seemed like she would break it. Only Juanxi, who was on the other peak, did not show any changes in his expression. From the moment Xiao Qin executed the lightning tribulation saber technique, he had confirmed some of his guesses. No matter how talented you are, or how great your luck is, challenging me, Bai Wuxue, is fated to be your misfortune. Die! A murderous intent flashed in Bai Wuxue's eyes. Illuminated by the light, Bai Wuxue stretched out his hand and pointed. A white light surged out from his forehead, and the light of his will formed white rings of light visible to the naked eye. Bai Wuxue's forehead lit up, and a small ice sword with a flowing light shot out from his finger towards Xiao Qin. This was the form of Bai Wuxue's will. The small ice sword was only about the size of a palm. However, the energy it spat out made space tremble continuously, as if it would tear at any moment. A huge pressure encased Xiao Qin. A flood of ice and snow seemed to form behind the small ice sword, rumbling like 1,000 horses galloping forward. Several people could not bear to watch this, so they closed their eyes. Another unparalleled genius was about to fall. The age of the martial epoch was the best stage for geniuses, but it was also the grave for countless geniuses. When Xiao Qin saw the small ice sword approach him, he smiled instead. He said softly, "I thought you had some trump card. So, it is this. It seems like I have a little bit of a will as well." The purple lightning talisman in Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness spun around and flew out from his forehead. The huge pressure instantly vanished before the immortal will of thunder. Chapter 786. Without giving the crowd any time to be shocked, the talisman crashed into that ice sword. A melodious shattering sound rang out. The thing that Bai Wushue's will took shape shattered in half. A purple light flashed. At the summit of the snowy mountain, Bai Wushue vomited a mouthful of blood. Before he could express the shock in his eyes, the purple lightning talisman struck him. Electric light burst out, and the light of an immortal will poured out. The 3-kilometer-tall snowy mountain directly melted. Shock waves surged, and Bai Wushue's body flew back 5 kilometers before crashing heavily into the cliff of a mountain. With a loud bang, the mountain peak was immediately split into two. The huge mountain peak collapsed heavily towards the ground. Xiao Chen flew over, and the talisman automatically returned to his sea of consciousness. Then, he swung his saber, and a saber chi tore through the sky like a crescent moon, directly chopping the falling mountain in half. Xiao Chen gently drifted over and landed beside Bai Wushue, who was covered in wounds and coughing up blood. He was in an extremely sorry state. Xiao Chen sheathed his saber. Then, before everyone's shocked gazes, he kicked out and sent Xiao Chen tumbling down from the middle of the mountain like a sandbag. When the crowd saw Bai Wushue being casually kicked away by Xiao Chen like a cripple, they thought about how Bai Wushue had said that whoever challenged him was unlucky. They could not help but find it ironic. Who exactly was unlucky? As the crowd watched Bai Wushue fall, the answer went without saying. The extreme Yin sect elder who announced the start of the duel earlier looked at Xiao Chen with an extremely cold expression. Then, he gently drifted over and caught the severely injured Bai Wushue. When this elder saw Bai Wushue's body covered in wounds and charred skin, his face twitched uncontrollably. Unexpectedly, the top true inheritor of the extreme Yin sect ended up like this. Without a month of rest, he would not be able to recover. Damn it! The elder's face darkened, and a murderous intent flickered in his eyes. As he looked at Xiao Chen, who was halfway up the mountain, the heavenly sage laws behind him could not help but move. A tremendous amount of spiritual energy flowed like a river and rapidly gathered towards him. Buzz! Just as he was about to make his move, a wisp of fiery light streaked across the sky like a meteor, leaving a beautiful trail in the sky. In the blink of an eye, it fell towards him like a falling star. It was so fast that it could not be described with words. The old man was startled and quickly withdrew his killing chi. Then, he hugged Bai Wushue and pushed off, his figure flashing into the air. As soon as he took a step forward, the stream of light descended and instantly sank into the ground. A finger-sized hole appeared in the ground. It was so deep that the bottom could not be seen. Boom, boom, boom. Without any warning, after a second of peace, countless spider-like cracks suddenly appeared on the ground, and the entire ground exploded. Rocks filled the sky and shot out in all directions like sharp arrows. A deep, spiral-shaped crater with a diameter of 500 meters appeared. The power of this arrow was incomparably shocking. What is the extreme Yin sect trying to do? Are they not going to admit their loss? The rules of the challenging peak are set by the Bushin Palace. The disciples of the various sects are free to challenge others. Life and death are up to heaven. Grudges are settled fairly. The elders of the sect are not allowed to make a move. Just as the old man was about to lose his temper, a clear and elegant voice rang out. Shui Lingling appeared above him on the profound sun bird. She held up her purple bow and pointed it at him expressionlessly. The surrounding cultivators could not help but show interested expressions. Was this extreme Yin sect planning to go against the world and challenge the rules set by the Bushin Palace? Girl from the Haotian sect, don't be too overbearing. Naturally, the extreme Yin sect will not do something so dishonorable. The extreme Yin sect can afford to lose, and so can Bai Wushue. A loud and clear voice approached from afar. It was a skinny old man walking over with a gloomy expression. When the cultivators in the distance saw this person's face, they could not help but take a few steps back. A deep fear flashed in their eyes. The extreme Yin old man actually came out. That is normal. Bai Wushue is the disciple he is most proud of. How could he not come out after being injured to such an extent? However, Xiao Chen is really surprising. The extreme Yin old man was an expert of the Tianwu domain, second only to Emperor Wu. In this era where Emperor Wu was fighting in the starry heavens, he represented the peak of the Kunlun realm. When facing this person, just a glance from him would cause one to feel immense pressure. Shui Lingling suppressed the panic in her heart and said, "Many thanks for Senior's magnanimity. Xiao Chen, let's return to the Haotian sect." Halfway up the mountain, Xiao Chen gently leaped up and landed on the back of the profound sun bird. He discovered that there were many familiar faces on the bird's back. Aside from Jun Si and the others, Yu Chenxi and Gong Yangyu were among them as well. Xiao Chen looked at their identity medallions. After not seeing them for a year, they had already become true inheritors. It looked like gold would shine wherever it was. "Congratulations, senior brother Xiao." A few people offered their congratulations, and Xiao Chen responded to them one by one. They were all familiar people, so he did not stand on ceremony. Shui Lingling looked cautiously at the extremely old man and did not say anything. She controlled the profound sun bird to spread its wings and turn into a beam of azure light, flying far away. After all, this was the extreme insect's territory. While the other party did not dare to play any tricks, there was no guarantee that they would not do something in secret. The earlier they left, the better. As they watched the group leave, the cultivators who had rushed over to join in the fun all had complicated expressions on their faces. Originally, they thought that there would be nothing to see in this battle. Unexpectedly, it turned out to be so intense. The process was filled with twists and turns, extremely dangerous. The final result was also unexpected. Bai Wuxue had brought out the will of ice and launched a great counterattack. Originally, he should have won. Who could have imagined that Xiao Chen would comprehend a will as well? Furthermore, that will of thunder was much stronger than Bai Wuxue's will of ice. The moment it came into contact, it shattered Bai Wuxue's will of ice. If the will of thunder was damaged, it would harm the cultivator's foundation. Bai Wuxue's injuries might even affect his cultivation. This was a severe loss. Of the 7 giants, Bai Wuxue was the first to comprehend a will after Enjuanxi. His future should have been bright. Bai Wuxue had used this arranged battle with Xiao Chen to use Xiao Chen as a stepping stone, reaching the sky in one step and rising rapidly. Who could have imagined that the result would be the opposite? Bai Wuxue became Xiao Chen's stepping stone, becoming famous instead. After today, the name of the white-robed bladesman, Xiao Chen, would shake the entire Tianwu domain. He would appear before the eyes of all the major factions, and his fame would catch up to the newly advanced Holy Sun, Enjuanxi. The crowd slowly dispersed. Soon, the extraordinarily bustling Challenge Peak also slowly dispersed. The old man hugging Bai Wuxue said with a sullen expression, "First Elder, we are really not satisfied with letting that brat leave just like that." Many figures landed at the foot of the Challenge Peak. All of their auras were terrifyingly strong. Unexpectedly, all of them were superior-grade martial sages. They were all major characters of the Extreme Yin sect. Any one of them could sweep across the 27 northern provinces. At this moment, these strong martial sages all focused their gazes on the Extreme Yin old man. With just a word from him, these people could instantly catch up to Xiao Chen. They would immediately kill Xiao Chen like he was an ant. They would absolutely not let him leave alive. The Extreme Yin old man glanced at the weakened Bai Wuxue. His emaciated face looked terrifying. He slowly said, "There is no need. That girl, Shui Lingling, definitely has a will clone of the Haotian Emperor on her. Even if all of you go, you will not be able to stop her. However, Wuxue is so severely injured. How is he going to participate in the Sage ranking 1 month from now? Our Extreme Yin sect is counting on him to get a spot." Indeed. If the 2 supreme elders in closed-door cultivation know that we messed up this matter, they will definitely hold us accountable. The big shots of the Extreme Yin sect behind him all chimed in one after another. They were clearly unwilling to accept this outcome. Ignorant. The Extreme Yin old man's face sank as he snorted coldly. When the others felt his rage, they all shut up. Even if we kill that brat, will Wuxue definitely get a spot? You don't have to worry about the spot. The will of thunder has a suppressive effect on the will of ice in the first place. It is a good thing that Wuxue is injured. Without destruction, there can be no construction. This matter will make him calm down. Without destruction, there can be no construction. The old man hugging by Wuxue thought of something. His expression changed, and he said, "First elder, are you saying?" The extremely old man said indifferently, "Coincidentally, Wushue's will of ice shattered. While it is being reconstructed, I will think of a way to add an attribute into it." When the others heard this, their eyes could not help but light up. If they could add an attribute into the will of ice, such as light, massacre, ruin, darkness, or destruction, then Bai Wuxue would definitely benefit from this disaster. This was definitely a blessing in disguise for Bai Wuxue. His strength would increase explosively, and his chances of obtaining a slot would increase significantly. However, if one does not comprehend an attribute on their own, forcefully adding it in would be like drinking poison to quench their thirst. It would be a huge obstacle to Wushue's future growth, an elder said somewhat worriedly. The extremely old man smiled mysteriously and said, "I have my own ways. Just wait and see. What does one arranged battle count for? The most important thing is who has the last laugh." The azure profound sun bird pierced through the clouds in the gorgeous sky and a gentle breeze. Xiao Chen stood on the profound sun bird and casually chatted with his junior brothers and sisters from the Haotian sect about their experiences in the past year. From the time they set out from the Haotian sect to the time they entered the savage forest, 1 year seemed very long. However, to Xiao Chen, it felt like it was just a thought. This feeling became even more intense when he told others about it. It gave him a comprehension of the great Tao, of how time flies. There would be many more years like this on the path to the peak. Be it bitter cultivation or searching for fortuitous encounters, 100 years might be but a flick of a finger. After the profound sun bird flew for 2 days, it stopped in a provincial city with a transportation formation. Then, Shui Lingling spent a large sum of money to transport the group to the Haotian province. The familiar silhouette of the Haotian city appeared in Xiao Chen's vision once again. The group bade each other farewell, and Xiao Chen prepared to return to his residence to rest. Junior brother Xiao Chen, wait for a moment. Shui Lingling, who had not spoken along the way, smiled gently and called out to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen turned around and looked at the other party. He said, "First senior sister, you are looking for me." At such a close distance, Xiao Chen did not dare to look at Shui Lingling directly. This gentle girl had an indescribable charm. Shui Lingling nodded and said, "Wait for a moment. I'll bring you to a place. The first elder of the inner sect wants to meet you." As long as the sect masters of the various sects had the same cultivation as Emperor Wu, they would travel the starry heavens and adventure in the depths of the universe, searching for fortuitous encounters that belonged to them. Chapter 787. Normally, the sect would have a supreme elder holding down the fort to prevent outside invasions and demonic calamities from descending. The inner sect's first elder was in charge of the internal affairs. The Haotian sect was no exception. To a certain extent, the authority of the sect's inner sect elders was equivalent to that of the sect master. The first elder's family name was Han. Xiao Chen had met him before when he made an exception and traveled far away. He did not know why the first elder was looking for him, so Xiao Chen asked out of curiosity. Shui Lingling smiled mysteriously and said, "You will know when you get there. Come with me." The two soared into the air. Under Shui Lingling's lead, they flew higher and higher. Soon, they approached the inner city. However, they showed no signs of descending. Xiao Chen felt suspicious. He looked up and used his sharp spiritual sense to look at the boundless space. He could feel something slightly different. However, he could not pinpoint exactly what was different. It was like a goose feather drifting in the air, indistinct and indistinct. Shui Lingling took out a jade strip and tossed it into the air. A light flickered in the air, and a spatial door appeared from nowhere. Then, Shui Lingling took a step forward and vanished from Xiao Chen's sight. Suppressing the doubts in his heart, Xiao Chen rushed forward and entered the spatial door before it closed. The spatial door immediately closed silently, not attracting anyone's attention. After walking in the space-time tunnel for some time, the scene before Xiao Chen suddenly opened up. Unexpectedly, there was a completely different world inside, a completely different world. When Xiao Chen looked up, the starry sky looked very strange. The sky was clearly not dark at all. However, the boundless stars on the other shore were clearly visible, both bright and dark, inspiring wonder. There was a continuous mountain range on the ground. The mountains were lush and green. Xiao Chen could see pavilions and strong spirit beasts galloping about. In the center of the mountain range was a huge platform with hundreds of huge warships parked on it. Xiao Chen observed the auras of those warships. He discovered that the lowest-ranked warships were Sage-grade secret treasure warships. However, when he looked carefully, he discovered that there were many King-grade warships. In the Sky Dome realm, the noble clans treated the King-grade warships as family heirlooms. Unexpectedly, there were so many of them here. Thousands of palaces floated in the air, surrounded by dense spiritual clouds. Looking at the spiritual vein origins suppressed under the palaces, if one counted carefully, there were at least 4 grade 1 spiritual veins suppressed under each palace. Seeing the appearance of Xiao Chen and Shui Lingling, powerful mental energy was sent out from the palaces and flew towards them. His spiritual power circled around Shui Lingling's body and then concentrated on him. Xiao Chen frowned slightly and instinctively set up a bounded domain around himself with his divine sense. However, there were still a few extremely powerful psychic forces that directly penetrated Xiao Chen's divine sense, wanting to enter his body to see clearly. Xiao Chen could not help but feel horrified. The masters of these psychic forces were all superior-grade martial sages. In terms of cultivation, they were no weaker than the extreme mean old man. The feeling of being seen through was not a good one. Ever since Xiao Chen's Purple Thunder divine incantation advanced to the 6th layer, he had not experienced such a situation for a long time. Xiao Chen's face sank, and the purple lightning talisman in his sea of consciousness started circulating. Strands of spiritual sense carrying the might of the immortal will of thunder swept out. When those psychic forces saw the spiritual sense containing the will of thunder approaching, they all dodged, not daring to clash head-on. Some psychic forces did not manage to pull them out in time and were directly refined by Xiao Chen's spiritual sense. Muffled groans came from the palaces. Clearly, they suffered some losses. Xiao Chen felt somewhat surprised. He asked, "First senior sister, what is this place?" Shui Lingling answered, "This is the Haotian sect. This is the place of 10,000 years of accumulation. It is also where the elites of the entire sect are. You will soon become one of them." Xiao Chen now understood. It turned out that the Haotian city outside was just a facade. This was the true foundation of the Haotian sect. No wonder Xiao Chen found it strange. The Haotian sect was one of the 9 ranks of the great families. Why did it only have 7 or 8 true inheritors? Furthermore, there were very few martial sages in the sect. It turned out that they all ran here. When a cultivator advanced to martial sage, their lifespan would increase rapidly, reaching 500 years. The number of cultivators who could advance to martial sage in the Kunlun realm was 1 in 10,000. The chances were extremely low. This was even lower in the Sky Dome realm. If not for the vast spiritual energy and horrifying population of the Kunlun realm, there would not be so many martial sages. However, once a cultivator advanced to martial sage, their long lifespan ensured that they could survive for a very long time. Nearly all the martial sages of the Haotian sect in the past thousands of years were gathered here. Most of the people in this secret realm were martial sages. Aside from them, there were the previous true inheritors of the Haotian sect. These people were only one step away from martial sage. These people were under 100 years old and were the focus of the Haotian sect's nurturing. They could be considered a reserve force of elites. If an older generation martial sage fell, they could immediately replace them. Only then could a sect be guaranteed to last a long time and not fall. Once the reserve forces could not keep up, the rank of the sect would automatically fall in less than 500 years. Such a situation was very common in the Kunlun realm. Although there were many 9 ranks of the great families, there were very few 9 ranks of the great families that could last forever. Las Ling, who is this fellow? As the two spoke, a palace flew over from the distance like a castle in the sky. The fog formed by spiritual energy scattered, and a spirited old man walked out with a smile. When Shui Lingling saw this old man, her eyes lit up. She could not help but smile gently. It is rare for Martial Uncle Qin to be so free and come out of closed-door cultivation. I tried to visit you a few times, but the door was always shut in my face. However, the old man with the family name Qin laughed loudly and said, "Do you think I still do not know what you want? This purple bow of yours is already a high-ranked sage-grade secret treasure. If it is upgraded again, it will become a peak sage-grade secret treasure. This old man will not be able to endure your exploitation." "Petty," Shui Lingling muttered. Then, she introduced this old man to Xiao Chen. This was Elder Qin of the sect. He advanced to martial sage 500 years ago. Now, he was already a peak superior grade martial sage. Elder Qin could be considered a grandmaster-level martial sage. His strength was unfathomable. Furthermore, he was very good at refining secret treasures and managed the refining pavilion in the sect. Xiao Chen understood. While this old man did not put on any airs, based on Shui Lingling's introduction, he was a bona fide major character in the Haotian sect. Junior Xiao Chen greets Elder Qin. "Greetings, Elder Qin." Not daring to be too casual, Xiao Chen performed a cupped fist salute. The refining pavilion's Elder Qin glanced at Xiao Chen and revealed a contemplative expression. He wanted to see through Xiao Chen. However, he felt that there was a thick layer of fog that prevented him from seeing the light. Feeling helpless, Elder Qin could only give up. He said, "Brat, you are really not simple. No wonder that Elder Bai and the others suffered at your hands. They are probably too ashamed to face others now." When Shui Lingling heard this, she could not help but feel slightly startled. The Elder Qin mentioned were all major characters of the Haotian sect. However, they were all major characters of the Supreme Sky sect. They had lived for several hundred years and possessed unfathomable strength, all Grandmaster-level martial sages. If they took another step forward, they would be able to break through to the Great Tao and become the Blue-Robed Emperor. Unexpectedly, they suffered at Xiao Chen's hands. After being praised like this by a Grandmaster-level martial sage, no matter how thick Xiao Chen's skin was, he felt somewhat embarrassed. Any one of these people could kill him with a flick of a finger. "Senior is joking." Elder Qin smiled and said, "I am not joking. Brat, are you interested in secret treasures? I am already so old, and my disciples are not skilled enough. If you are interested, this old man does not mind taking in a final disciple." Elder Qin's expression was somewhat stunned. He could not understand why Elder Qin suddenly wanted to take in a disciple. However, Elder Qin appeared very serious. He continued, "This old man is the pavilion master of the refining pavilion. As long as you become my disciple, you will not lack secret treasures in the future. You will be able to change the tattered items you have on you immediately." "Wait, that's not right. There is still an inferior grade sage grade secret treasure in your body that has not been completely refined." "Hee. This pagoda has great potential. If you become my disciple, I can immediately upgrade it to a peak sage grade secret treasure." When Shui Lingling, who was at the side, heard this, she frowned slightly. She smiled and said, "Elder Qin, you are really something. The moment my junior brother came over, you gave me a secret treasure and helped me upgrade it. I have already asked you to help me upgrade my purple bow to a peak sage grade secret treasure many times." When Elder Qin heard this, he laughed and said, "That purple bow of yours is a magic treasure from the immortal epic. Now, it is probably no weaker than a king-grade secret treasure. This old man really cannot afford to spend the resources needed to upgrade it." "Stingy," Shui Lingling said with a pout. Elder Qin smiled awkwardly and said, "Junior, have you thought it through? If you follow me and travel the boundless starry heavens, You will not have to worry about not having enough secret treasures. Xiao Chen could not help feeling tempted. After all, the other party was a Grandmaster-level martial sage with more than 500 years of cultivation. His strength was unfathomable and he knew how to refine secret treasures. Taking this person as Xiao Chen's master would definitely be of great help to him. However, he was hesitant. Xiao Chen had a free personality and found it hard to abide by some rules. Ha ha ha. Old Qin, you are just a lousy blacksmith, and you want to take in such a good seedling? You are dreaming. You have to ask whether we agree or not. Resonant laughter resounded, and a few more martial sage palaces flew over. A few old men parted the spiritual fog and appeared before Xiao Chen. Shui Lingling felt somewhat shocked. She said, Elder Bai, Elder Qi, Elder Lu, and Elder Wu, why are you all here? Without a doubt, these people were all Grandmaster-level martial sages. One of them even made Xiao Chen feel boundless pressure from his bones. The purple talisman in Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness trembled as it spun continuously. Only when the immortal inscriptions flickered did the situation take a turn for the better. Xiao Chen sized up this old man, whom Shui Lingling referred to as Elder Bai, cautiously. The other party definitely comprehended a will as well. Furthermore, his will was of a much higher level than Xiao Chen's. Elder Qin immediately fumed and glared at the old man. Old Bai, Old Qi, why are you all here? Elder Bai laughed loudly and said, you are not the only one with sharp eyes. His bone age is only 23 years old, but he already comprehended 100 heavenly sage laws and the will of thunder. Naturally, we will not waste such a good seedling. Chapter 788. Several Grandmaster-level martial sages disregarded their statuses and started promising Xiao Chen all sorts of benefits, dazzling Xiao Chen. He could not help but cast a pleading gaze at Shui Lingling. Shui Lingling smiled bitterly. She understood these people's excitement at finding a good sapling. However, they could not teach Xiao Chen. Just as Xiao Chen was about to speak, a small mountain-like flame descended from the sky. A strong aura pressed down, making breathing difficult. A formless force swept over. Xiao Chen and Shui Lingling were the most vulnerable. They could not resist at all, and their bodies were pushed back uncontrollably. Boom! The flame stopped above a residence and quickly turned into a stout figure. This person had thick eyebrows, large eyes, and a squarish face. He looked like a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man wore purple battle armor that flickered with talisman scripts. An extremely heavy stench of blood lingered on his body. Clearly, he had just experienced a great battle. Greetings, Vice Sect Master. Everyone, including Elder Bai, lowered their heads and bowed respectfully. It turned out that this middle-aged man was the Haotian Sect's Vice Sect Master. No wonder he had such a strong aura. He was probably a martial sage that surpassed Grandmaster-level martial sages, someone like the blue-robed emperor. Xiao Chen lowered his head and guessed in his heart. He had not guessed that this person was Emperor Wu because of his intuition. The few of you, stop messing around. He is someone that the sect master has taken a fancy to. Even I do not have any designs on him. Elder Bai, bring some people to Blackwater Star. I already dealt with the astral beasts there, the square-faced, middle-aged man said calmly. The square-faced middle-aged man said calmly. Then, his figure flashed and he turned into a fiery light that escaped into his own palace. The moment this person left, that formless might and aura vanished. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Vice Sect Master's strength is becoming increasingly unfathomable. There are several rank 5 astral beasts on Blackwater Star. Soon, he will become our Haotian Sect's 4th Emperor Wu. There is nothing to say about that. It is just unfortunate that the sect master snatched away such a good seedling. The few old men muttered to themselves. Then, they looked at Xiao Chen reluctantly before leaving. These words confused Xiao Chen. He raised his head and looked at the starry heavens above. Then, he asked, First Senior Sister, are we still in the Kunlun realm? Shui Lingling smiled and said, naturally, we are still in the Kunlun realm. However, we are no longer in the Kunlun continent. We are already in the starry heavens. This is the headquarters of our Supreme Sky sect in the starry heavens, the Supreme Sky Star. You don't have to be surprised. In the future, you will know that the resources of the continent are limited. Only the resources of the starry sky are unlimited. The top sects will set their headquarters in the starry sky. After flying for about an hour, Shui Lingling brought Xiao Chen to a majestic hall in the mountains. An old man with white hair and eyebrows stood on the platform in front of the hall. He looked very amiable. This was the Haotian sect's inner sect's first elder, Han Qinghe. Greetings, first elder. After the two landed, they performed cupped fist salutes. Han Qinghe raised his hand and smiled. Then, he carefully sized up Xiao Chen. Revealing a satisfied expression, he said, Xiao Chen, you already know what this place is, right? Xiao Chen nodded and said, I do. First senior sister already told me. You are the first inner sect disciple to enter this place in the past 1,000 years. You will understand how many benefits there are in the future. Han Qinghe continued in a calm tone, 1 month from now, the proud son of heaven ranking sage battle will begin. This sage battle will be different from the past. You will not fight for rankings but for slots. The moment Xiao Chen said that, even Shui Lingling found it strange. She asked, what slots? Han Qinghe explained, the Kunlun Mountain's heavenly dew divine spring is already full. The Bushan Palace obtained 10 slots. The other fiend races, the deity race, the ghost race, and the corpse race all obtained slots as well. When Ao Jiao, who was in the immortal spirit ring, heard the mention of the heavenly dew divine spring, she immediately cried out, Xiao Chen, you cannot miss out on that slot. You have to fight for it. Xiao Chen asked doubtfully, heavenly dew divine spring? What is that? It is very complicated to explain. Let me put it simply. Kunlun Mountain is a holy mountain that has existed since the immortal epoch. Even now, it is still the center of the entire Kunlun realm, the starting point of the martial epoch. There is a legendary immortal spring in the mountain, which is the current heavenly dew divine spring. By soaking in it, one's aptitude can be improved, turning a mediocre person into a genius, and a genius into a powerful demonic genius. According to legend, the cultivators who soak in this spring will definitely become Emperor Wu if there are no accidents. Furthermore, many facts have proven this point. Aside from those who died accidentally, all the geniuses who soaked in this spring became Emperor Wu before the age of 100. When Xiao Chen heard the last sentence, he could not help but feel excited. Han Qinghe smiled and said, I believe the two of you have more or less heard of the heavenly dew divine spring. The Haotian sect places its hopes on the two of you. You have to obtain 2 spots. Lingling, bring Xiao Chen to the heavenly battle palace. Here is my token. Give Xiao Chen a Heaven Series training room. Xiao Chen should not go out for 1 month. The Heavenly Battle Palace was a place where all the Haotian sect's true inheritors would be attracted to after they reached a certain stage. As long as they did not advance to martial sage, they would remain there. Hence, there would be a large age difference. However, most of them would be within 100 years of age. If they could not advance to martial sage by 100 years of age, they would be chased out of Haotian Star, never to return. The highest floor of the Haotian sect's pyramid would have nothing to do with them. However, such a thing was extremely rare. The true inheritors that the Haotian sect took a liking to had pretty good talent in the first place. With vast resources and guidance from many senior experts, they would be able to advance to martial sage before the age of 100. In normal times, those who could advance to martial sage before the age of 100 in the Kunlun realm would be considered geniuses. Ordinary martial sages could not compare to them. After all, it was unfair to use this once in 10,000 years era of geniuses as a standard. The martial epoch only had a history of tens of thousands of years. Along the way, Xiao Chen asked Shui Lingling, first senior sister, it is understandable that the heavenly dew divine spring is useful to us. However, based on Elder Han's expression, it seems like if we can obtain a spot, the sect will benefit greatly as well. Shui Lingling knew that Xiao Chen had always been cautious and meticulous. So his question was not strange. She explained, after soaking in the heavenly dew divine spring, our blood will contain the medicinal effects of the heavenly dew divine spring for 24 hours. At that time, as long as you and I bleed a little more, the sect will refine it into medicinal pills. The Haotian sect will have several dozen or even hundreds of martial sages. Seeing the shocked expression on Xiao Chen's face, Shui Lingling smiled and said, however, don't worry. This matter will not affect us. The essence of the heavenly dew divine spring will immediately enter our bones. In the end, the only thing circulating in our blood will be some dregs. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and did not say anything. He was just somewhat shocked at the effects of this heavenly dew divine spring. Just the dregs could produce so many martial sages. Xiao Chen wondered if the cultivators who soaked in the heavenly dew divine spring would really become Emperor Wu before the age of 100 like the rumors said. On the mountain path, they rarely met other people. However, when they did, they were all martial sage experts. Xiao Chen did not dare to underestimate any of them. These were ordinary martial sages. They were all elite martial sages of the Haotian sect. Grandmaster martial sages often led them to fight astral beasts in the starry heavens. These martial sages did not lack resources. They were far from what loose cultivators or the few Xian clan doyens could compare to. Xiao Chen finally understood how vast the Kunlun realm was. The Haotian sect was not even at the peak of the 9 ranks of the great families, yet it already had so many earthen cores. How strong were the accumulations of the peak 9 ranks of the great families? What kind of scenery would the sovereign sects and sovereign noble clans be? Not to mention the other races that were still mysterious to Xiao Chen. We've arrived. This is the heavenly battle palace. Xiao Chen looked up and saw a majestic palace in front. 3 large words were written in a flamboyant style, Heavenly Battle Palace. When Xiao Chen stared at it for a while, he felt a piercing pain in his eyes. Xiao Chen quickly withdrew his gaze. It looked like these 3 words had some other meaning. First senior sister, you're here again. A few men and women walked out of the palace's doors. They all had deep cultivations, all peak half-sages. However, they did not look young. The youngest among them was at least 40 years old. However, based on the average lifespan of the Kunlun realm, 40 years old was not considered middle-aged. Furthermore, one's appearance would not change too much. When the leader saw Shui Lingling, he immediately walked over with a smile. Shui Lingling was now the top true inheritor and the sect master's personal disciple. Even though these people were older than Shui Lingling, they still had to address her as first senior sister. Due to seniority, they could not simply address her that way. Clearly, Shui Lingling was familiar with the people here. After she greeted them, she said, Junior brother Zhongyi, this is the newly arrived junior brother Xiao Chen. He received orders from the first elder to come to the heavenly battle palace to cultivate for 1 month. When Zhongyi saw Xiao Chen behind Shui Lingling, surprise flashed in his eyes. His first reaction was that Xiao Chen was too young. Based on Xiao Chen's appearance, he was only about 23 or 24 years old. Zhongyi had not heard of such a young person entering the heavenly battle palace in a long time. The group of previous true inheritors behind Zhongyi also showed surprise on their faces, clearly in disbelief. First senior sister, is this true? How come I have never heard of this junior brother Xiao Chen before? Zhongyi could not help but ask. This was also what the others were thinking. Shui Lingling took out the inner sect's first elder's medallion and smiled. That is natural. The first elder's medallion is here. How could it be fake? That's right, who will get the Heaven Series training room for this month? The first elder has already decided to give it to Xiao Chen. The moment Xiao Chen said that, everyone's expressions changed drastically. The surprise in their eyes turned into extreme shock. Is this for real? The Heavenly Battle Palace's only Heaven Series training room is going to a person who just entered the Heavenly Battle Palace. We have to have a competition every month. Only the champion can enjoy the Heaven Series training room for 1 month. The moment he arrived, he will stay there for 1 month. Chapter 789. In the Heavenly Battle Palace, the 100-odd true inheritors of the previous batches could not obtain the Heaven Series training room even after putting in blood and sweat. He obtained it so easily. This is too unreliable. All sorts of dissatisfied voices came from the mouths of the previous true inheritors. As they looked at Xiao Chen, they became even more curious about his origins. Could he be the new disciple of a major character in the sect? If not for his connections, he would not have been able to obtain such preferential treatment. They could not be blamed for having such thoughts. It was normal for people to be jealous and suspicious. Furthermore, Xiao Chen did look very ordinary. Zhong Yi looked at the token that Shui Lingling handed over. His expression turned strange, as the token was indeed real. Shui Lingling was not lying. First senior sister, this is going to be difficult. This time, the winner of the Heaven Series training room is Cui Hao. He has a fiery temper. Furthermore, he has been the champion of the competition for half a year in a row. It will be difficult for him to move out. Shui Lingling repeated Cui Hao's name. Then, she said in a low voice, this is going to be difficult. However, Xiao Chen is a special case. He really managed to free up this month. Xiao Chen entered deep thought. This group of people had such a huge reaction. The Heaven Series training room should have a great effect on cultivators' cultivation. Otherwise, they would not have such a huge reaction. Thinking of this, Xiao Chen could not help but feel some anticipation in his heart. When the others saw Xiao Chen and Shui Lingling leave, they hesitated for a while before following after. They wanted to see Cui Hao's expression when he found out about this. As Shui Lingling stepped through the palace doors, the scene inside the Heavenly Battle Palace entered Xiao Chen's vision. The style of the Heavenly Battle Palace's buildings could be described with 2 words, tall and large. Every pavilion was extraordinarily tall. It gave off an extremely crude and simple feeling. There was an incredibly vast drill ground in the palace, and many disciples were currently sparring in it. Seeing Xiao Chen behind Shui Lingling, he stopped what he was doing. Eldest senior sister actually brought a male disciple in. Looking at their expressions, they seemed to be quite familiar with each other. This was something that had never happened before. After asking Zhong Yi, who was following behind them, and finding out the ins and outs of the matter, they all revealed the same expression as the previous group of people. Holy crap! He is just a brat, yet he wants to stay in the Heaven Series training room the moment he arrived. Are you kidding me? Not to mention Cui Hao, even I am not convinced. Those who could enter the Heavenly Battle Palace were all the outstanding true inheritors of the previous batches. They all had high mental states. They were not young. Even with the First Elder's order, they were still quite dissatisfied when they saw a junior trying to step on their heads. A group of people followed him in a grandiose manner, quietly waiting for the development of the matter. Many of them were even discussing how to put Xiao Chen in his place. Standing in front of the Heaven Series training room, the blue-robed Cui Hao's expression immediately sank when he heard Shui Lingling's words. You want me to give it up? To even give it up to a brat? Shui Lingling, don't you think this is an insult to me? The skinny and capable-looking Cui Hao snorted coldly. He had a dark expression as he spoke with extreme dissatisfaction. When Shui Lingling saw that Cui Hao was not easy to deal with, she felt angry. She said sullenly, Cui Hao, this is the First Elder's order. Even the palace master has to abide by it. Cui Hao looked around and stared at Xiao Chen. He said, I don't care about the First Elder's order. I personally obtained this Heaven Series training room. I am abiding by the Heavenly Battle Palace's ancestral teachings. You want me to give it up? Sure, but you have to defeat me first. Shui Lingling still wanted to say something, but Xiao Chen smiled faintly and answered first, that suits me. I do not want people to think that I came here because of connections. Xiao Chen clearly heard the people pointing at him and slandering him. Even though he could ignore them, he still had to consider Shui Lingling's feelings. Xiao Chen, you have to think this through. Actually, what Cui Hao said makes sense. This is indeed the Heavenly Battle Palace's ancestral teachings. I think the First Elder assigned you to the Heaven Series training room because he wants to test you one last time. Shui Lingling sent a voice projection to Xiao Chen. Cui Hao is 38 years old this year, more than 10 years older than you. 10 years ago, he was already a half-sage. Previously, he was also the top true inheritor. Hence, his talent is definitely not low. Furthermore, he has been bitterly cultivating in the Heavenly Battle Palace for the past few years. Even if you grasp a will, you cannot guarantee that you can defeat him. Xiao Chen sent a voice projection back, First Senior Sister, don't worry. I am fully confident. However, even if I lose, it will just be because my skills are inferior. I will not have any complaints. Clearly, Cui Hao had not expected Xiao Chen to answer so straightforwardly. Then, he smiled and said, you are rather hot-blooded. Come with me to the drill ground. If I lose, Cui Hao will not have any complaints. Just at this moment, something strange happened. Where did this nameless brat come from? He just came in, and he already wants to stay in the Heaven Series training room. Furthermore, he wants to fight with senior brother Cui. I, Tian Mao, am the first to not accept this. I, Lu Shui, am not accepting this either. I, Bai Feng, am not accepting this either. Many people in the Heavenly Battle Palace were arrogant and unruly. The people who had been discussing how to take Xiao Chen down a peg earlier all shouted together, looking quite impressive. Bang! Right after the three spoke, Xiao Chen's figure flashed. He moved like the wind, moving through the crowd and arriving before the person who spoke first. This person's family name was Tian, and he was about 40 years old. He had already been a half-sage for a long time. The heavenly sage laws behind him were all as thick as a pinky finger. Furthermore, they were extremely dense. There were more than 70 of them. With such a cultivation realm and talent, he would definitely be considered an outstanding talent of the Kunlun realm before the Great Age. However, now that the Great Age had arrived, if he still could not see the situation clearly, correct his position, and rein in the pride in his heart, he would be asking for trouble. Xiao Chen's figure flashed as he charged forward and punched at this person. The heavenly sage laws in his body surged, and thumb-thick purple ribbons of light appeared behind him. The ribbons of light moved up and down, and electric lights surged. Boundless lightning attributed spiritual energy surged toward Xiao Chen's fist. When he punched, the sound of thunder and wind filled the world. When this person saw the heavenly sage laws behind Xiao Chen, his expression could not help but change. However, it was already too late for him to retreat. He could only receive Xiao Chen's punch head-on. The heavenly sage laws behind both parties formed long ribbons of light. As they danced about, whistling sounds rang out continuously. The spiritual energy of the world fluctuated intensely. Bang! A dull sound rang out. The instant the two fists clashed, blood leaked out of this person's mouth, and he immediately went flying back. The other disciples along the way quickly moved to the side. That person flew back 100 meters before he landed with some difficulty and stabilized himself. He felt his chi and blood unstable, and his right fist trembled in pain. He felt like his earlier punch had landed on a metal mountain. As he looked at Xiao Chen, who had not moved back a single step, horror appeared in his eyes. Brother Tian, are you all right? The other two disciples, who had been heckling, quickly rushed over and asked worriedly. The other disciples, who had moved to the side, looked at Xiao Chen in shock as well. Although this Tian disciple was not an outstanding person in the Heavenly Battle Palace, his strength was clear for all to see. He had cultivated bitterly in the Heavenly Battle Palace for so many years, putting in a lot of effort and sweat. Everyone could see for themselves that he was no ordinary half-sage. However, Xiao Chen still knocked him back with one punch. If this continued, he would be severely injured in less than 20 moves. What a demonic genius! Has the outside world really changed? Some people started discussing in soft voices. They had also heard about the Age of Geniuses. Several of them revealed sad expressions. Cui Hao's expression turned grave as well. He said, "I'll wait for you at the drill ground." After saying that, Cui Hao leaped up and turned into a beam of light, flying towards the drill ground in the heavenly battle palace. Xiao Chen leaped up and quickly followed. "Let's go. I want to see how strong this demonic genius from the outside world is." Many people held their breaths and soared into the sky, flying towards the martial arts practice field. When Shui Lingling saw this scene, she had a complicated expression. These people were the outstanding true inheritors of the Haotian sect. However, they had been born too early. They had missed the Age of Geniuses. Their past glory was not worth mentioning in this Age of Geniuses. The disappointment in their hearts was easy to imagine. The number of true inheritors this year is already full. At that time, the Heavenly Battle Palace will have more newcomers than before. It is good to let Xiao Chen remind them in advance. With a gentle push, Shui Lingling turned into an azure light and flew towards the drill ground as well. Whoosh! Whoosh! Two beams of light landed one after another. Xiao Chen and Cui Hao stood facing each other on the vast and hard drill ground. Cui Hao, who wore tight blue robes, no longer dared to underestimate Xiao Chen. A yellow disc floated out of his body and hovered above his head. The disc gave off motes of light that looked like moonlight. These motes turned into threads encasing Cui Hao. Cui Hao stretched out his hand, and a crescent moon saber appeared in his grasp. The blade of the saber was as smooth as a mirror. Its edge was cold and emotionless. The crescent moon saber was even more beautiful than the moon. When the moonlight from the disc shone on the saber, they complemented each other, forming a beautiful scene. Xiao Chen looked at the disc above Cui Hao's head and raised his eyebrows slightly. This was a completely refined sage-grade secret treasure. It contained heavenly sage laws and could absorb the energy of moonlight. That elder Qin said that my pagoda was not completely refined. However, I feel that it is already completely refined. It looks like there are still many secrets about sage-grade secret treasures that I do not know. When I have time, I should ask him about them. Make your move. I can see the hidden saber intent in your eyes. The waning moon scimitar was pointed straight at Xiao Chen and Cui Hao said in a flat tone. Sorry for the offense. Xiao Chen flipped his palm and the lunar shadow saber appeared in his left hand. His right hand grasped the saber hilt. Leaping into the air, the Qing Emperor instantly executed the drawing the saber. In that instant, 72 figures of Xiao Chen appeared in Cui Hao's eyes. Each figure represented a different trajectory of the saber. Cui Hao squinted and the figures in the air merged. However, Xiao Chen drew the lunar shadow saber in his hand. Dark clouds filled the sky, and this saber strike carried a horrifying purple lightning. This saber strike was very mighty. The trajectory of the saber was unpredictable. By the time Cui Hao discovered Xiao Chen drawing his saber, the saber light had already arrived before him. Chapter 790. It was already too late to block with his saber. However, Cui Hao did not panic. The disc hovering above his head gave off a bright light, and a moonlight curtain fell. The lunar shadow saber hacked at the moonlight curtain, and electricity exploded, immediately chopping it in half. However, Cui Hao took advantage of this opportunity to retreat 100 meters, dodging this saber strike. When the moonlight curtain completely shattered, he spun the waning moon saber in his hand and charged forward. Using the secret treasure above his head, Cui Hao nimbly dealt with this troublesome drawing the saber. Even though he moved later, he managed to arrive first, gaining the initiative. Xiao Chen swung his hand back, and the lunar shadow saber blocked Cui Hao's waning moon saber. Boom! A starry sky appeared behind Cui Hao. A vast bright moon rose up, giving off a boundless radiance. Purple lightning bolts appeared behind Xiao Chen, turning into berserk pythons covered in scales. Their eyes were like lightning, and they howled in the air like they were alive. The two mysterious phenomena materialized from their respective saber techniques. The instant the sabers clashed, they immediately gave off a horrifying sound. The vast drill ground shook intensely. Senior brother Chui used the moonlight disc and the heavenly moon saber technique right from the start. He is treating that Xiao Chen as a true enemy. Lightning materializing into berserk pythons. This Xiao Chen is indeed not simple. I have only seen such a mysterious phenomenon among some older generation cultivators. The heavenly battle palace disciples who rushed over hovered in the air. Their expressions were all strangely grave. Senior brother Chui had been forced into such a state. If he still lost, it would mean that they were truly old in this age of geniuses. The new generation would replace the old. In a river, the front waves would beat the back waves. Who would be willing to be beaten to death by the front waves? The fight between the two in the drill ground intensified. The moonlight disc above Chui Hao's head gave Xiao Chen a headache. Xiao Chen's berserk lightning pythons already possessed spirituality. Without needing to think about it, they could automatically pursue and attack their opponents, creating a lot of trouble for them. However, as long as the lightning python made any strange movements, the disc would absorb the light of the bright moon behind Chui Hao. With a light shine, it would shoot out a pillar of light, striking the lightning python into a ball of lightning and dispersing it. However, Xiao Chen did not know that Chui Hao also had a similar problem. Chui Hao's moonlight disc could be used for both offense and defense. When he faced an enemy, he could gather the energy of the heavenly moon and disrupt his opponent's movements. Even if Chui Hao faced a regular inferior-grade martial sage with this secret treasure, he would not fear them. However, in the face of Xiao Chen's saber technique, it was useless. It could only be used to defend against his endless lightning pythons. Their figures flashed. The crescent moon saber and the slender lunar shadow saber clashed in the air, creating sparks. Lightning flashed, and the moonlight was like snow. The martial arts practice field was overflowing with brilliance, and it was a magnificent scene. Sky Moon Slash! Chui Hao suddenly shouted and executed the killing move of the heavenly moon saber technique. The bright moon behind him suddenly disappeared and the saber gave off a bright light. A 300-meter-long saber chi in the shape of a crescent moon chopped at Xiao Chen. Earthly lightning tribulation. Xiao Chen countered with equal harshness. He did not hesitate to execute the killing move of the lightning tribulation saber technique. The 100 pythons merged into one. The purple talisman in Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness spun gently. Strands of immortal will of thunder infused into the pythons. Boom! The python formed by the tribulation lightning clashed with the saber chi in the shape of a crescent moon, resulting in a deafening explosion. Cracks appeared on the hard ground. The might of the will contained in the saber technique. No wonder this insignificant earth-ranked saber technique can clash with my heavenly moon saber technique. A strange look flashed in Chui Hao's eyes. He finally discovered something wrong with the other party's lightning tribulation saber technique. The bright moon behind him, which had disappeared, glowed again. Chui Hao's expression turned grave. At this moment, he no longer had a path of retreat, he could only fight. Flawless falling moon. Xiao Chen held his saber with both hands and raised it above his head. Then, he hacked down ferociously. Chui Hao's figure quickly rose towards the bright moon behind him. Unexpectedly, this attack forced him back. Furthermore, the speed at which Chui Hao retreated was unimaginably fast. Soon, he flew across the sky and entered the full moon. This startled Xiao Chen. As he looked at the bright moon growing larger, he suddenly understood. It was not that Chui Hao retreated too quickly. Instead, it was this saber strike that pulled down the bright moon in the sky. Flawless falling moon. It turned out that this bright moon would really fall. This move was somewhat similar to the moon bright like fire that Xiao Chen knew in the past. However, this flawless falling moon was of a much higher level. Its might was not something that moon bright like fire could compare to. The full moon was about to fall. If it struck, the consequences would be dire. Without much time to think, the purple talisman in Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness spun wildly. The light of the immortal will of thunder turned into a bolt of heavenly lightning and soared up from Xiao Chen's head. Xiao Chen brandished his saber at the sky, and the saber light instantly became extremely resplendent. Heavenly lightning chop! Xiao Chen shouted, and the heavenly lightning formed by his will turned into a berserk python. Countless strands of electricity gathered towards it. The berserk python roared, and a small horn appeared on its head. 4 legs extended from its abdomen, and the purple scales on its body flickered with a faint golden light. Heavenly lightning chop, flood dragon transformation. The lightning flood dragon roared ferociously. Carrying the light of an immortal will, it turned into a heavenly lightning tribulation and charged at the full moon. Boom! In an instant, the lightning flood dragon crashed into the full moon in midair. A shocking explosion resounded in the sky, and the bright moon shattered. The lightning flood dragon's figure shrank by half its original size. However, its charm remained, and its might did not diminish much. With a ferocious roar, it blasted the pale-faced Cui Hao behind the bright moon into the ground like a cannonball. Bang! A large pit instantly appeared in the drill ground. When the dust settled, the faint light of the moonlight disk appeared in everyone's vision. Coughing came from the deep pit. Cui Hao jumped up and stood back on the drill ground with a charred face. At this moment, Cui Hao's clothes were tattered, and the blood on his lips had yet to dry. His hair was messy, and he looked very weak. As Cui Hao looked at Xiao Chen, who had sheathed his saber, he felt somewhat dissatisfied. However, he still spat out the words with much difficulty. He said, "I lost. The Heaven Series training room is yours. Thank you for letting me win." This battle was very clean and efficient. Cui Hao was also defeated very quickly. When he saw that Xiao Chen had a will and that his killing move was slightly inferior, he decisively admitted defeat. Xiao Chen did not make things difficult for Cui Hao. Cui Hao was someone who kept his word. After he was defeated, he immediately gave up on the Heaven Series training room. The previous true inheritors hovering in the air had sad expressions in their eyes. Cui Hao was already the strongest among them, but he was still not a match for Xiao Chen. The world had really changed. The changing winds and clouds of this era, the most dazzling stage, no longer had anything to do with them. Silent sighs resounded as the crowd left in groups of 2s and 3s, leaving behind dejected figures. Cui Hao glanced at Xiao Chen and said, "If you had not comprehended a will, the result of this battle would have been hard to say." After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen replied, "Perhaps. Unfortunately, there are no ifs. There are no ifs during a battle. There is only the result." After losing to a junior brother who was much younger than him, Cui Hao felt somewhat sad. He did not want to say anything more. He put away his saber and moonlight disc and silently left the drill ground. High in the sky, the heavenly battle palace's 2 vice palace masters and palace master showed rueful expressions after watching this battle. The person in the middle was Elder Bai, whom Xiao Chen had met once before. He was also the Heavenly Battle Palace's palace master, responsible for guiding and training the previous true inheritors. It looks like Sect Master's judgment was right. This fellow is indeed worthy of our Haotian sect making an exception for him. Now that we are in an age of geniuses, our Haotian sect will be able to obtain Xue Lingling and Xiao Chen. These 2 absolute demonic geniuses will be able to gain a foothold. The 2 vice palace masters spoke with joy on their faces. Only Elder Bai, who was in the middle, did not show much joy on his face. He said, "I recall that the number of true inheritors in the Haotian sect this time seems to have increased to 30. The competition is still exceptionally intense." Yes. The first elder is considering transferring half of the disciples into the Heavenly Battle Palace. Elder Bai thought for a while and said, "When you and I go to Blackwater Star 7 days from now, let's bring some of the previous true inheritors along as well. Even if they are born at the wrong time, they cannot let their hearts be disturbed. These people are the hope of our Haotian sect." Inside the Heaven Series training room, Xue Lingling introduced the various facilities to Xiao Chen before taking her leave. Xiao Chen now knew why this Heaven Series training room was so attractive to others. First, there was the cultivation room. Under the prayer mat, there was a formation connected to 10 rank 2 spirit veins origins, which could double one's cultivation speed. There was also an incense burner in the cultivation room that could calm one's mind. The herbs in the incense burner were obtained from the seabed of the chaotic demonic sea, which was extremely valuable. After the incense burner was lit, azure smoke spread out, allowing cultivators to cultivate quickly without entering a state of berserking chi deviation. There were combat puppets of various ranks in the combat room. They could exchange moves with one at any time. However, one had to use the spirit gathering pearls to activate the combat puppets. There was also a kind of holy spring spiritual milk in the combat room. Consuming one drop would guarantee instant recovery of one's quintessence, allowing cultivators to fight with the combat puppets continuously. However, all this was not the most exciting thing. The most exciting thing was the crystal in the combat room. This crystal contained a Wu clone of Emperor Wu. Xiao Chen could activate it once a month, allowing him to exchange moves with Emperor Wu in the mental space. Just thinking about it made him excited. Emperor Wu was the name of the peak of the Kunlun realm's cultivators. He was the common pursuit and dream of millions of cultivators in the martial epoch. Being able to exchange moves with Emperor Wu personally went without saying how helpful it would be to Xiao Chen. When Xiao Chen arrived at the cultivation room, he lit the incense burner first. Strands of white smoke immediately spread out in the room. When Xiao Chen inhaled gently, his mind immediately became tranquil. Xiao Chen's chaotic thoughts instantly calmed down. His body, both inside and out, was filled with a sense of peace and tranquility. This was very mystical. Ao Jiao could not help but sigh. The Haotian sect really put in a lot of effort. The herbs in there are called deep-sea coumarins. Just half a kilogram is worth 100,000 astral coins. Furthermore, they can only burn for 3 days. Xiao Chen sized up the quiet and elegant cultivation room. He said, I have not been able to feel any bottlenecks in the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation's 6th layer. I can use this place to speed up my cultivation and not have to worry about entering a state of berserking chi deviation. Chapter 791. According to the secret manual, when the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation broke through to the 7th layer, there would be a lightning tribulation and a heart tribulation. After the official breakthrough, there would be great benefits. Xiao Chen was filled with anticipation and nervousness. According to the records, if he could not clear the tribulation, he would end up dying. There was no perfect cultivation technique in the world. The Purple Thunder Divine Incantation could cultivate both quintessence and mental energy. Furthermore, its effects far surpassed those of similar heaven-ranked secret techniques. Now that the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation had reached the 7th layer, its tribulation had arrived. Whether it could safely clear it or not, Xiao Chen was not confident. Be it the lightning tribulation or the heart tribulation, they were not that easy to deal with. After taking another deep breath of the fragrance in the room, Xiao Chen tossed aside these messy thoughts. He sat cross-legged on the prayer mat and entered a state of cultivation. There was no concept of time when cultivating. 3 days later, after the deep-sea coumarin grass finished burning, Xiao Chen slowly opened his eyes. The bottleneck of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation's 6th layer far surpassed Xiao Chen's expectations. Even after absorbing the spiritual energy of 10 rank 2 spirit veins without restraint, he showed no signs of reaching the bottleneck. For some reason, Xiao Chen heaved a sigh of relief. However, he immediately startled awake. Although he maintained a calm mental state, in reality, he still feared the lightning tribulation and the heart tribulation of the 7th layer. If he could not clear it, he would die, turning into dust and vanishing from the world. All his glory and dreams would vanish like smoke. Xiao Chen could not help but smile self-mockingly. He raised his right hand and clenched his fist. When he felt the surging energy in his body, he muttered, "Death. It seems like the higher one's cultivation realm, the stronger one's strength becomes. The fear of death is no longer as indifferent as before." Is it because the more one obtains, the more one fears losing, resulting in one's contentment with the status quo? Between a peddler and a person of high authority, who is more afraid of death? Clearly, the latter is the latter. In the end, Xiao Chen was just an ordinary person. Even though he understood some principles, he could not do it. For now, Xiao Chen had no good way to counteract this disadvantageous mental state. The more he thought about it, the deeper his heart demon would be. Xiao Chen shook his head and stopped thinking. Then, he got up and headed for the combat room. After preparing sufficient spirit-gathering pearls, Xiao Chen activated an inferior-grade martial sage bladesman-type combat puppet to fight with him. The humanoid combat puppet had everything an inferior-grade martial sage could grasp: heavenly sage laws, heaven-ranked martial techniques, movement techniques, auras, and everything else. It even possessed a certain level of intelligence. As the other party did not feel pain, Xiao Chen would have a much harder time dealing with it than a true inferior-grade martial sage. 6 hours later, Xiao Chen ran out of Zhenyuan. He exited the combat room and took out the Holy Spring Spirit Milk from the compartment in front of the door. Drinking a drop, his quintessential essence instantly recovered to its peak state, and he charged in once more. By the time Xiao Chen could deal with the 5 inferior-grade martial sage combat puppets, he had already exhausted all the Holy Spring spiritual milk. After 3 consecutive days of high-intensity combat, Xiao Chen had gained a lot of insights and gains in saber techniques. So, he spent another day to digest these insights. During these 7 days, Xiao Chen's bitter cultivation in the Heaven Series training camp was equivalent to half a year outside. Furthermore, there were many conditions that the outside world could not create. Indeed, the Heaven Series training camp has many benefits. If only I could cultivate here for half a year. I wonder if that would be enough for me to reach peak half-sage. Xiao Chen said somewhat greedily. 1 month was simply too short. Senior brother Xiao Chen. A somewhat distant shout came from outside the courtyard of the training room. Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows and left the combat room. With a few flashes, he flew out of the courtyard. When Xiao Chen discovered that the person who came was Zhong Yi, whom he had met once outside the Heavenly Battle Palace, he felt very uncomfortable hearing Zhong Yi call him senior brother. Zhong Yi smiled and said, "I wonder if I have interrupted senior brother Xiao Chen's bitter cultivation? If so, this Zhong apologizes." Xiao Chen smiled calmly and said, "Brother Zhong, there is no need to be so polite. Just call me Xiao Chen. I have already used up all the Holy Spring spiritual milk and deep-sea coumarin grass. Coincidentally, I was just about to go out to collect more." When Zhong Yi saw that Xiao Chen was so low-key and did not put on any airs, he heaved a sigh of relief. He smiled and said, "In that case, I will not stand on ceremony. The palace master is preparing to bring people to Blackwater Star. He instructed me to ask if you are interested in going." Xiao Chen suddenly recalled that this was no longer the Kunlun continent but the starry heavens. "I would be happy to." Xiao Chen had been looking forward to the starry heavens for a long time. Now that he had a chance to experience it, naturally, he would not let it go. However, it was a pity that he would be delaying his time in the Heaven Series training room. When Zhong Yi heard Xiao Chen's straightforward reply, he was somewhat surprised. After all, the benefits of the Heaven Series training room were that people who had the opportunity to enter were reluctant to leave. Xiao Chen smiled gently and said, "Brother Zhong, I wonder if you can tell me more about the starry heavens? I have always been curious about them." After Zhong Yi heard that, he replied humbly, "Without reaching superior grade martial sage, there is no way to survive in the starry heavens. However, it is still very difficult. Only Grandmaster-level martial sages can survive alone and take risks. However, they cannot leave alone for too long. Only those who are at least the blue-robed emperor can travel freely in the starry heavens and experience dangers everywhere. Hence, I do not know much. Brother Xiao Chen, if you have any questions, just ask. I will do my best to answer." Xiao Chen thought for a while before asking his first question. "How far is this star we are standing on from the Kunlun continent?" "I know that. Zhongyi smiled and said, "The Haotian star we are standing on is actually not far from the Kunlun continent. We just need to break through the barrier of the sky and travel 5,000 kilometers. Most of the bases that can be established in the stars are within this range. If it is too far, even Emperor Wu might not be able to protect it." 5,000 kilometers sounded very far. However, in the context of the boundless starry heavens, it was indeed very close. However, breaking through the barrier of the sky was extremely difficult. Without the cultivation of a Grandmaster-level martial sage, one would not be able to move the barrier of the sky at all. The star under Xiao Chen's feet should be the one where the previous Emperor Wu of the Haotian sect spent a lot of effort and met with many fortuitous encounters to open a space-time tunnel to the main sect. Otherwise, given the strength of several martial sages on this star, they would not have been able to break through the barrier of the sky and come here alone. Through this exchange of questions and answers, Xiao Chen obtained some information that he did not know before. For example, the barrier of the sky, which covered the entire Kunlun continent, existed only in the Kunlun continent. None of the other stars had such a powerful, vast, and seemingly boundless barrier. Furthermore, such a barrier had an even stronger defense against astral beasts. Even the astral beasts, which were as strong as Emperor Wu, could not break through the barrier of the sky. Due to the protection of the barrier of the sky, the Kunlun realm was free from the invasion of astral beasts. Otherwise, it would be an even more severe disaster than the demonic calamity. However, Zhongyi did not know much about some of the profound things. The Heavenly Battle Palace disciples rarely had the chance to leave the Haotian star. Furthermore, Grandmaster-level martial sages would protect them every time, preventing them from leaving on their own. As the two spoke, they arrived at the gathering place, the drill ground of the Heavenly Battle Palace. Many of the previous true inheritors were there. Aside from the disciples at critical junctures in their cultivation or those who had gone out on business, most of them were here. After all, if one was lucky, one might be able to obtain great fortuitous encounters in other unknown stars. It could be sect remnants from the immortal epic, the cave of a mysterious powerhouse, rare ores, or wondrous items. Of course, the chances of this were extremely small. There was only a sliver of possibility. If there were truly great fortuitous encounters, the Grandmaster-level martial sages and the blue-robed emperor would have found them long ago. Xiao Chen could only see if he could find some that slipped through the net. When Xiao Chen appeared in the drill ground, he immediately felt several gazes. This was especially so for Cui Hao, who appeared extremely surprised. Unexpectedly, this fellow gave up on cultivating in the Heaven Series training room and came here to join in on the excitement. Others might not be able to personally experience the benefits of the Heaven Series training room, but Cui Hao had stayed there for a long time and was very familiar with its benefits. When the two Vice Palace Masters of the Heavenly Battle Palace saw Xiao Chen arrive, they nodded to themselves. Then, they started to explain some things to take note of on this trip. The Blackwater star we're going to this time is a little different from the stars we've been to before. All the alien beasts above level 4 have been killed by the Vice Sect leader, but the alien beasts below level 4 are still around. So, we mustn't stray too far away from us. The main purpose of this trip is to subdue a few rank 3 spirit veins on Blackwater star. At the same time, we can let you fight with some weak astral beasts to gain combat experience. Of course, if you obtain any wondrous items during experiential training, they will be your personal property. The sect will not care about subduing them. The two superior grade martial sage Vice Palace Masters spoke one after another, carefully explaining the things to take note of. This was the first time Xiao Chen experienced such an adventure in the starry heavens. He listened very seriously, not missing a single word. Suddenly, urgent whistling sounds came from above. A huge shadow fell on the ground. When Xiao Chen looked up, he saw a king-grade warship flying over. The two Vice Palace Masters knew that it was time to depart. So, they called someone over and got that person to hand out a purple jade pendant with the word Haotian on it to every disciple preparing to go to the starry heavens. Xiao Chen asked Zhongyi, who was beside him, about the function of this jade pendant. The king-grade warship had its own protective barrier. With this jade pendant, one could pass through the barrier unobstructed. Jade pendants were divided into mother and son. The palace master and the vice palace masters could use the mother jade to locate the disciple with the son jade. If one ran into any unpredictable danger, they could activate the son jade to ask for help from the mother jade. At the same time, there was a star map attached to the jade pendant. There were simple markings on it, the stars around Haotian where the Kunlun realm factions were stationed. If one lost their way, they could find a star with a Kunlun realm faction to descend on. Otherwise, surviving on a desolate, abandoned star would most likely result in death. Of course, it would be best to find a star with a Tianwu domain faction or the human monarch star where Bushan Palace was. Otherwise, if one went to a star of another race, it would be just as dangerous, perhaps even more so. Chapter 792. Danger lurked everywhere in the starry heavens. It was clear that the Haotian sect had put in a lot of effort to ensure the safety of this group of disciples. Put on your jade pendants and board the warship. Whoosh! Right after the vice palace master spoke, the many disciples on the drill ground immediately leaped up and passed through the King Grade warship's protective barrier, landing on the deck one after another. Xiao Chen casually sized up this King Grade warship. It was about 300 meters long and 30 meters tall. Its entire body was pitch black, and its hull was made of Yama black gold, a rare ore found in the starry heavens. The purple banner of the Haotian sect hung on the bow of the warship, with the word Haotian written on both sides. High-ranked ancient demonic energy cannons were mounted on the deck and the surroundings of the warship. The might of the high-ranked ancient demonic energy cannons was very strong, no weaker than the full-power strike of a Grandmaster-level martial sage. With 100 cannons firing together, they could instantly kill a Grandmaster-level martial sage. There was even a sage-grade ancient demonic energy cannon hidden in the mouth of a mutated beast at the front of the warship, something that could threaten a strong existence like the blue-robed emperor. Xiao Chen could even vaguely sense extremely complicated and mysterious talisman scripts on the warship's protective shield, appearing indistinct. Only when Xiao Chen infused his spiritual sense into his eyes could he see flickering golden spots of light. Xiao Chen thought to himself, this King-grade warship is not as simple as it looks on the surface. Just as Xiao Chen thought this, the bow of the warship tilted up slightly. Four exhaust pipes popped out from the stern, and red flames spewed out ferociously. The warship moved at Mach 2, heading for the sky. Then, it continuously accelerated until it reached Mach 10, leaving this star. At a certain moment, Xiao Chen lost his center of gravity. His body floated up involuntarily. He immediately realized that he had arrived in the starry heavens. Although this was the first time Xiao Chen experienced something like this, he did not panic. He circulated his quintessence and landed back on the ground. The other disciples had wanted to see Xiao Chen make a fool of himself. They had not expected that Xiao Chen would not panic at all. They were all shocked. After walking on the bow for a while, Xiao Chen quickly got used to the absence of gravity. Furthermore, he discovered that the starry sky of this world was somewhat different from the starry sky of his previous world. When Xiao Chen turned his head back and looked at his surroundings, he saw the boundless starry sky. The visual impact of the boundless starry sky was many times stronger than when he was on the ground. This was not the first time the other disciples on the bow had seen such a scene. However, the shock in their hearts was not any less than Xiao Chen's as they stared at their surroundings. The outer space was not peaceful. Meteorites would fly toward the battleship from time to time. The advanced magic cannons around the battleship had not stopped firing since they arrived in the outer space. Resplendent beams of light blossomed in the starry sky, shattering the incoming asteroids. Otherwise, if they crashed into the barrier at such a terrifying speed, it wouldn't be a small matter. Xiao Chen lowered his head and fiddled with the jade pendant on his chest. He recalled that the jade pendant contained a map of the nearby starry sky. Feeling curious, he sent in his spiritual sense. A three-dimensional star chart immediately appeared before Xiao Chen. The battleship and the people around him seemed to have disappeared. He felt like he was standing alone in the outer space. The stars on the star chart were marked with various colors. Blue stars indicated that other factions of the Kunlun realm were stationed there. The other colors of different shades indicated the danger level of the stars. The stars on the star chart were not fixed. They moved at high speeds at every moment, giving off a very wondrous feeling. As Xiao Chen's gaze moved, the star chart would slowly move. When he looked closely, the small stars would grow larger. However, this star chart was clearly just an ordinary continent. The starry sky marked was not particularly vast, and many things were rather crude. After the novelty vanished, Xiao Chen felt that it was no longer interesting, so he withdrew his spiritual sense. Just as Xiao Chen withdrew his spiritual sense, he looked into the distance with his peripheral vision. 10 odd clumps of light burning with scarlet flames quickly flew towards the warship. The scarlet flames looked very dazzling in the dark starry sky. It's a flame crystal rock. Several disciples at the bow of the warship cried out excitedly, their eyes lighting up when they saw this item. The two vice palace masters guarding the bow of the warship were somewhat astonished as well. Then, they smiled and said, "It really is a flame crystal rock. Unexpectedly, we are so lucky. When we come over later, make your move. However, remember not to stray too far from the warship." However, Xiao Chen frowned slightly. His spiritual sense could see much further than the mental energy of the two vice palace masters. He could see a young man with a dark and sullen expression sitting on a black throne behind the 10-odd clumps of light burning with scarlet flames. There was a clump of pitch-black clouds below the throne. The dark-faced man drove the throne forward quickly, chasing after the scarlet clumps of light in front. The entire throne gave off a deathly aura. Xiao Chen felt a strange sense of familiarity. The scarlet throne in his sea of consciousness started shaking restlessly. After absorbing a flame crystal rock, a cultivator would have a high chance of comprehending the state of fire. After a cultivator with the state of fire absorbed the flame crystal rock, the might of their state would become even stronger. It was even possible to directly comprehend a will after absorbing some of the higher quality flame crystal rocks. Of course, such peak-grade flame crystal rocks were extremely rare. Furthermore, they were worth cities. Very few people discovered them. Clearly, none of the flame crystal rocks flying towards the king-grade warship contained any peak-grade flame crystal rocks. Otherwise, the two vice palace masters would not have been able to hold themselves back. However, their value could not be underestimated. Furthermore, there were many of them. Just one would be enough to make a small fortune. The scarlet clumps of light became increasingly distinct. With just the naked eye, one could see the red crystals within the flames. Whoosh! 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 Many figures soared into the air, flying towards the scarlet clumps of light. The two vice palace masters glanced at the unmoving Xiao Chen. Then, the old man on the left said, "Xiao Chen, go and fight for it as well. As long as you do not stray too far from the warship, you should be safe for 4 hours. There is no air in the starry heavens. At first, you will not be able to control your speed. You should get used to it first before you go and fight for the flame crystal rocks." The person on the right gave some advice. Xiao Chen could not help but smile bitterly. Naturally, he wanted to fight for the flame crystal rocks. Even if he could not use them, he could still exchange them for a large sum of astral coins. However, the throne that the mysterious man chasing from afar was clearly the death throne of the evil monarch throne. It came from the same source as Xiao Chen's massacre throne. Ao Jiao once said that the evil monarch throne was split into 7. Each of them represented a high-ranked state. As long as one could snatch and merge the other party's throne, they would be able to gain another high-ranked state. Aside from the energy states of wind, water, fire, thunder, and earth, there were also states of massacre, destruction, immortality, ruin, death, despair, darkness, and other even more difficult to comprehend high-ranked states. With each additional state, a cultivator's strength would increase by leaps and bounds. If that mysterious man sensed that Xiao Chen had the massacre throne, he would definitely charge over without a care for anything else. As for the rumor that the evil monarch was reborn after merging the 7 thrones, no one would believe it. Xiao Chen, don't worry. You will take this step eventually. It is good to familiarize yourself with it now. The 2 vice palace masters continued to console Xiao Chen. They thought that Xiao Chen was worried about the unfamiliar environment of the starry heavens and was unwilling to go out. Xiao Chen's bitter smile turned into a conflicted one. He had no choice but to go out now. He controlled his mental energy in his sea of consciousness and wrapped the restless scarlet throne in layers. Xiao Chen understood the principle of possessing a jade ring in one's pocket. He had not used the scarlet throne all this while because he was not strong enough. Once it was exposed and attracted the attention of some experts, it would be a huge hidden danger. With a gentle push, Xiao Chen instantly passed through the protective barrier of the warship and arrived in the boundless starry heavens. The instant he exited the barrier, he clearly felt the pressure on his body decrease. His speed automatically increased by 20%. Without the obstruction of air in the starry heavens, one would be much faster than in the Kunlun continent. After reaching a certain level of speed in the Kunlun realm, one would hit a bottleneck. Only by entering the void would one be able to increase one's speed. However, tearing the void of the Kunlun realm was something that even Grandmaster-level martial sages could not do. After adapting to his surroundings, Xiao Chen held his breath and circulated his quintessence. Then, he looked at the situation in front of him. Cui Hao took the lead, nimbly dodging the meteors in the starry heavens, rushing ahead of everyone else. He was the closest to the 10-odd clumps of scarlet flames, his eyes filled with excitement. Ao Jiao, I used my mental energy to envelop the throne in several layers. That fellow should not be able to discover it, right? That should not be the case. If you can still be discovered, the result will be the same whether you leave the warship or not. This conversation allowed Xiao Chen to relax. As for the flame crystal stones, they were not something that he urgently needed. If he could fight for them, he would. Xiao Chen executed the Thunder Dragon steps and narrowed his eyes. Then, he quickly dashed forward, overtaking a large group of people and flying side by side with Cui Hao. Huh. I might lose to you on land, but it is impossible for you to defeat me in the starry heavens, Cui Hao said to Xiao Chen beside him. Cui Hao said sullenly to Xiao Chen, who was beside him. Then, he increased his speed again, leaving Xiao Chen far behind. Hearing Cui Hao's mocking words, Xiao Chen smiled faintly and ignored him. He continued flying forward at a constant speed. Good. The first flame crystal stone is mine. Cui Hao revealed an expression of joy. Then, his figure moved, heading for the long flame crystal stones. Then, he stretched out his hand, wanting to grab a flame crystal stone. His quintessence surged, and a flame crystal stone immediately left its original trajectory and flew towards Cui Hao. The joy on Cui Hao's face deepened. He stepped forward and tried to grab the flame crystal stone. Scram! How dare you snatch something that I, Wang Can, have my eyes on? A ferocious shout suddenly came from the distance. Suddenly, a black energy appeared in front of Cui Hao and swept over like a whip. The flame crystal stone that was about to fall into Cui Hao's hand was instantly knocked away. The black quintessence's might did not diminish, continuing to sweep towards Cui Hao. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.